The Bible. Is it hard to understand?
When it comes to reading the Bible, the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that this is the Word of God.
The seals have been broken, and the truth is here.
And when we go throughout the scriptures, when we go throughout extra biblical records, we find that the language that God employed, that He used to create the heavens and the earth, was the Hebrew language.
Christ said, I came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. But yet no one, no religious leader, no religious church out there anywhere can now identify the 12 tribes of Israel. Can we? God is quite simple, but it seems as if man makes understanding Him hard.
What are those mysteries?
The truth of your book and the truth will make you free. The Hebrew and Bible Academy, you're invited. Shalom, shalom. Let's go, let's go. Blessings, brothers and sisters throughout the four corners of the earth. Let's go into our weekly broadcast. One moment.
So much pain, life took us separate ways. Both did some hurtful things, but it's not over.
Shalom, please come on in. Hit the like button as you come in, please.
We both care. So can we forgive and forget? I need you here. Remember the ups and downs, the trials we've been through. See, there is no one on this earth who can replace you, my brother. Life is too short, don't hold no grudges. You are my blood. We must forgive
Shalom,
and
shalom.
love each other. No matter what life throws at us, we must.
Come on in. Hit the like button. Come on in.
We must keep brotherly love. Searched high and low, where did you go? Pick up your phone. Oh, brother, do you hear me calling?
Come on in. I'll apologize.
See, I apologize. Hey. This bond will never die. Remember the ups and downs and trials we've been through. So I'll keep on darling. I'll go till I get through to you, brother.
Life is too short.
Life is too short, don't hold no grudges. No grudges, brother. We must forgive and love
Madam.
each other. No matter what life throws at us, we must, hey, we must keep brothers, not enemies. Let's come together for the family.
That's right. That's right. Brotherly love, brothers and sisters. Brotherly love. Okay, for those who haven't heard that particular song, you can always go to Royalty Music by Shepherd. royaltymusic.com, royaltymusicbyshepherd.com, and you can get all that right there if y'all want to hear the songs. But I wanted to start this broadcast off with that particular song based on our topic this evening. Now, this topic is going to bring back a lot of different emotions, a moment out of nowhere. A moment out of nowhere. And do me a favor, brothers and sisters, as you come in, as I do this monologue before bringing in Elder Lawyer, please hit the like button as you come in. Brotherly love. Brotherly love. All right. Now, shalom, brothers and sisters. Again, I'm Elder Ricard Shaw of the Gathering of Christ Church, here live with our weekly podcast broadcast, whatever you would like to call it. We've been doing this since before there was any such word as podcast, but we're here. And I would like to talk about a few things this evening, but before I go in, all praises be to the Most High, Ahaya Bahashim Yeshaya Wa Rawak. Through the Holy Spirit, I'm going to try to go as long as I can tonight. Usually if I say that, Spirit kicks in and I go as long as I need to. But all in all, a few nights I think I ate something and it didn't agree with my stomach. So feeling better now, but I wasn't going to cancel this broadcast for nothing in the world. Okay, for nothing in the world would I cancel the broadcast tonight. So I'm doing good. A little sleep, little prayer. Everything is good. All right. Now, jumping right in. This week, week eight of our Hebrew and Bible Academy, we're going to be teaching on modern day Christianity. We've already hit Islam, and we're going to go into week 8, modern day Christianity. But for those who weren't in for week 7, boy, did you miss a serious broadcast, a serious class that we had, roundtable discussion. All right, Amath is going to come in this week to make sure my Zoom is working, because I want to hear, before I go into the topic, those who would have been on Zoom last week to give us their insight during this academy of, what exactly did they draw from that particular lesson, table discussion, discussing the satanic divide between man and woman. All right, so it's going to be great. The class was outstanding with the round table. All the participants, many people helped make it what that day was. A groundbreaking lesson, and soon we're going to have other guests, even opposing guests, when it comes to religions and religious leaders and religious concepts or different perspectives in our academy when we teach particular lessons. So hopefully you become a part of that by going to historytimes.org to enroll. And we're going into modern day Christianity. And what we're going to be talking about this coming Sunday is, y'all probably didn't know this, Satan's seat within Christianity. Does Satan himself visit the Vatican? Oh, yeah. Wait till I show you what's under the Vatican and more in this academy. Satan's seat within Christianity. What's under the Vatican? First time taught anywhere on the earth, while we break down the lies that are taught through modern day Christianity. You don't want to miss this. Satan's seat within Christianity will be this Sunday. And we'll also, for week 8, give out our first ever put together chronological Bible chart that has all of the extra biblical text as well as the Bible in chronological order, so you'll know exactly how to read our biblical text of our forefathers and our prophets. So I hope to see you there this Sunday. If this interests you, if you're interested in this, it's the Hebrew, the history, the Bible studies, as well as the news. There's nothing like it on the earth. So I expect you to be there, all right? Or you'll miss it. All right? Now, before I go into the topic today, before I discuss what I'm going to talk about today, I'm happy to announce in my hand, that's right, we have the calendar. We have the calendar. Let me turn down the light so you Run the race. We have the calendar. Run the race. Look at the concept. Look how beautiful that is. Vivid. The annual calendar that marks the correct time of year, 365 days. With the Bible scriptures to back it. Showing forth the true holy days according to God. Passover. In memory of our brother and fallen saint, Bishop Dwayne. And some of the proceeds will go towards Dwayne's family in the spirit of the Most High. Go to gatheringofchrist.org. Please pre-order so you'll have this by the beginning of the real year, March, okay? Gatheringofchrist.org. Gatheringofchrist.org and hit on the calendar, and please, don't just get one for you. Get a piece. Get it as a conversation piece to break the ice for family members who may not understand the truth, but they have calendars. They can still keep their time according to a calendar. But within the calendar, they'll see God's holy days opposed to pagan holy days. Okay? Thank you, and I hope you all support this. We want to make this a success, and a lot of the proceeds will go towards our fallen soldier, our fallen soldier's family, Bishop Dwayne. Oh, that's too bright. One moment. Too bright. Okay, jumping right in. I'm Elder Rick Harsh. You are the Gathering of Christ Church. Please hit the like button. Today we're talking about what? A moment out of nowhere. Now, if we all can, let's forget about the solution that came from the scare. Let's forget about the Hegelian dialectic. Problem, response, or panic, solution. Let's forget about that. And let's go back to March, right after the election of matter of fact, let's start here at the election, the turn of the year 2019, when the whole world was up in I would say fury and protest against George Floyd in the midst of an election. So many things were going on at one time, as if people in America and the Western world who was watching the election of the free world between Trump and Biden, right? The whole world, but especially Americans, were totally emotionally off balance with everything being thrown at our people at once. Racial divide between black and white, right? A white cop killing a black man. I can't breathe. And all of a sudden, after we heard the statement, I cannot breathe, I need you all to take yourself back to after the election. Now, right before the election, there was questions concerning whether or not, the election was counted correctly. So it was weeks before they could announce a president. And I'm taking you all back here for a reason. Because we're titling this evening, brothers and sisters. I need y'all to go back with me. A moment out of nowhere. Now, not like what we see going on today, where we're starting to figure out what everything is really about. At this time, March 2020, the majority of the world, including the people here in America, was thrown totally off balance. With what? A breakout of a reported virus. Now, what I would like you all to realize, I don't need to go into the solution, and I don't want to talk about the V word today. Because what I want to talk about today is way deeper than the V word and the solution and all those things. Where were you in your mind and in your spirit when that happened? March 2020, you don't know about anything. And I want you to answer these questions honestly. When you first heard something came over from Wuhan into America and was affecting certain cities, did you panic? Did you panic? Were you afraid of dying? And if none of those, in the midst of living through this, what was your greatest fear or fears? Huh? Now, of course, there would be a response to the reports. Did you put initial rules in place? Initial rules, house rules in place for your family? Were you alone when it happened? And how were you feeling alone with no one around and nowhere to go? Were you afraid of people? Even the people you loved? As it progressed, where your corporations and your jobs and your livelihood came into question, being shut down, was there instant concern about bills? What bills you would be able to pay or cannot pay? And if these bills accumulate, what would be the outcome? I have a lot here, right? Because I'm going to break them down one at a time. What were you willing to do to stay alive? We're not talking about when they came with a solution afterward. Because when the reports came out, without us realizing exactly what it was and what to do about it, the real spirit of an individual came to the forefront. Who you were in the state of a panic and how you would react in the midst of that. It brought out the reality of who we were, be it a people of faith or a people without faith. So, of course, at the end of it, we can hear others say, well, listen, I understood the whole time, right? I wasn't even really worried about it. But what I need tonight is an honest reaction, an honest answer to how you felt before you knew what was going on with the virus. Now, in a minute, I'm going to tell you why I'm going here. Did you panic? Were you afraid of dying? In the midst of this, and I'm going to put this out there too, before they came with the solution, were you secluded? Right? Did this cause some type of divide or some type of negative dispute with those in your neighborhood and or your family? Right? Now, I'm going to tell you my take on things as we go through it. But I would rather hear your real-time responses, because there's a lot of brothers and sisters out there who came to the knowledge of this truth during the so-called pandemic. You finally had an opportunity to sit still without distractions, without the cares of going into the world that would actually the world sometimes distract us from reality, and it breaks the monotony from our everyday goings, right? Breaking the monotony, but it allows some people to sit back and reflect on what's important, what's really important. Now, there's other things I want to bring out, but I want to hear what was your initial reaction, not just when it happened, but as it progressed. And it seems like as if there was no end to it. What type of different emotions did you go through? I'm going to open up the lines earlier to get these answers. But before I do that, let me go to Donald Trump, who was the president when this happened. March 2023. Let's go to Donald Trump. Right? Let's go to Donald Trump and Fauci. So in particular, we're going to look into and hear the reporting that was going on in the midst of a virus and no clear answers on how we would protect ourselves from it. Fair use.
And something incredible that we've established. We're energy independent, manufacturing independence, economic independence, and territorial independence enforced by strong sovereign borders. America will never be a supplicant nation. We will be a proud, prosperous, independent, and self-reliant nation. We will embrace commerce with all, but we will be dependent on none. Above all, we know that the best thing for our economy and the world right now is a very, very powerful victory over the virus. Every day, the American people are showing the unity and resolve that has always defined the character of our nation. In New York City.
Now, mind you, I'm going to straight out. He's reading from a prepared statement.
Citizens are using 3D printers to make hundreds of face shields. They're making them by the hundreds. In Texas, businesses and churches are uniting to collect gloves and thermometers for hospitals. In the selfless actions of our amazing citizens, we're seeing enduring strength of our magnificent nation, a spirit that can never be broken, and a victorious future that can never be denied. It never will be denied. Now, what I'd like to do is perhaps ask a person who has really established herself as maybe the world's great expert on what she does. If I could ask Deborah to come forward and say a few words, and then I'll ask Tony to come up and speak, and then our vice president, and then we'll take a few questions, and we'll do it quickly, and we'll probably see you again tomorrow. So, Deborah, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I think those of you who heard the town hall, we are continuing to accelerate testing at a record rate. We now have 370,000 tests that have been done. The majority of those, over 220,000 in the last 8 days, which those of you who have been tracking the South Korea numbers put us equivalent to what they did in 8 weeks that we did in 8 days. This was made possible because of the HHS team working together, bringing together the strength of the FDA with the CDC and under the leadership of Secretary.
Now, at this time, brothers and sisters, with no true understanding or solution to any of what was being reported coming in from Wuhan, the majority of the world was at the behest of the news, of the world news, to give us some insight for our future, whether or not this would decimate our families like it was being reported in China. Now, this is before the solution, folks. We're looking at this, and others were looking at this and were saying, well, I need to keep my eyes straight on the media to give me some direction to this, right? So they put the experts before us.
Secretary Azar. We're very proud of those numbers, but we know that we have to do more, and we continue to accelerate in testing to ensure that those who need the test are tested first and have.
So now the fears initially in those who are listening to the media is, I at least need to find out if this stuff is in me. Right? Now, before the reports, there was no fear of anything. We were going about our days regularly. But now, anyone, any person can now be what? Be infected. Could affect me, my family. Right? So on one hand, it seems as if through what she's conveying in a comfort fashion, that it's good to hear what's going on. But at the same time, it's developing something in myself, not me in particular. I'm using that generally, to fear those who are around me. Right? Now let's go straight to Fauci now. Fair use.
Those areas that are not hot spots.
Now, folks, I don't want to open up a dialogue on what anyone should feel about what happened, how it happened, how you feel about people who reported it back now that you know what you know now. This is strictly to hear how you felt and what you were going through in that moment when there was no true understanding to the virus and how it could affect you and your family.
We need to know what the penetrance of infection is there. So we need to put a light on those dark spots that we don't know. We have to act policy-wise on data. And we're going to be getting more data, a lot more data. The other thing is that the areas of the country that are not hotspots, that are not going through the terrible ordeal that New York and California and Washington State are going through, they still have a window of significant degree of being able to contain. In other words, when you test, you find somebody, you isolate them, you get them out of circulation, and you do the contact tracing. When you have a big outbreak, it's tough to do anything but mitigation. We have an opportunity now that we have the availability of testing to do that. So you're going to be hearing more about how we can inform where we're going, particularly because we have the ability to test.
Now, at this time, they also told those who were listening, right, because this was being played on every major news broadcast, not just in the United States, but around the world. At the same time they was broadcasting, they were suggesting that we should just stay in our homes for about 2 weeks, since the numbers were going up in big cities. And if we complied to this 2 weeks, everything would be okay. Or that's what we thought. But then businesses shut down, jobs shut down. And now other fears are coming into play, not just how whether or not we'll live through a virus, and who around me, what of my loved ones who are around me who may be possibly infected, right? I don't know who to trust around me. And on top of that, there's a fear that I may lose my job and not be able to earn a keep or earn for my mortgage, my car note. So all of these fears compacted one out of nowhere. And then on top of that, nowhere to go. You're in your home. If you're single, no family, no place to go, no social gathering. A moment out of nowhere. Now, there's a new series out called, I think it's called All of Us. It's called All of Us. I so happen to look into that particular video because they tend to through a lesser magic, tell brothers and sisters exactly what's going on through fiction with some of their programs, right? So, one second here. Let me show you here. There's a series out now that's called All of Us. And it seems like it's flowing from beginning at the end of what you would call that zombie series that was on AMC. The Last of Us. Yeah. The Last of Us. Not all of us. The Last of Us. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. The Last of Us. It seems as if they're picking up from the end of The Walking Dead, right? Where in The Walking Dead, there was a scene from the CDC or whatever the case is, but I digress. But now they pick this up, and something is deep in this particular series, Fair Use. What's deeper than the series in of itself, the one episode that I so happened to have viewed last night while I was getting over a little stomach bug or whatever the case is. The first 3 minutes, I feel, of this particular series is the most important part, even though they're dropping a lot in it. But the first 3 minutes is deep in of itself to a degree that I had to actually pick up my phone and record the introduction to this particular series. Oh yeah. The Last of Us. The Last of Us, implying that these are the people who made it through the turmoil, the destruction. These were the people that had the fortitude, knowledge, and logic to get through the chaos. Fair use. Check out what it says in the first 3 minutes.
And that's your biggest worry?
Yes, any kind of virus, but most probably something similar to influenza.
Because of air travel?
3. Coughing.
I'm sorry, I meant people on planes. That was something you described in your book.
Yes, a new virus in Madagascar, say, could be in Chicago within a matter of weeks. And we end up with a global pandemic.
It said a new virus will be here in a couple of weeks. A viral pandemic, right?
Meaning all the whole world becomes sick all at once.
Pandemic means, now they were doing a reenactment of a talk show of a talk show in 1968. And back then, something like a pandemic would have been so far in the future, right? But they were speaking of the possibilities if that was to happen. And he says a pandemic is when the whole world becomes sick all at once.
And Dr. Newman, you're also an epidemiologist. I presume the prospect of a viral pandemic keeps you up at night as well?
No.
No?
No.
All right, well, that's our show.
No, mankind has been at war with the virus from the start. Sometimes millions of people die, as in an actual war, but in the end...
He says in actuality, some people die in an actual war. Implying without saying, there's a way to get the numbers down without actually declaring war on countries.
And we always win.
But you, just to be clear, you do think microorganisms pose a threat?
Or in the most dire terms.
Bacteria?
No.
You like saying no?
Yes.
Not bacteria, not viruses, so...
Fungus.
So he says bacteria is not a big deal. Virus is not a big deal. That's what he said. But this guy is playing down the scare and saying, well, we should be more concerned with fungus. Fungus?
Yes, that's the usual response. Fungi seem harmless enough. Many species know otherwise, because there are some fungi who seek not to kill, but to control.
There's some fungi that don't seek to kill, but to control. And what you're going to find out is that this fungi can have a play on the psyche that will utilize the body as a host.
Let me ask you, where do we get LSD from?
Where do you get it from?
It comes from ergot, a fungus. Psilocybin, also a fungus.
Now notice he says fungus, and he said LSD. And the majority of us don't even realize what's going on with all these synthetic marijuana dispensaries that are being placed all within the major cities and throughout the earth, throughout America. Viruses can make us ill.
Viruses can make us ill, but fungi can alter our very minds.
But fungi can alter our minds.
There's a fungus that infects insects, gets inside an ant, for example, travels through its circulatory system to the ant's brain and then floods it with hallucinogens, thus bending the ant's mind to its will.
And the fungi can go into the ant's mind and bend the ant's mind to its will. So the fungi can go into the mind and now can control the ant. Right? The fungus starts to direct the ant's behavior. Mental health? Anyone?
Fungus starts to direct the ant's behavior, telling it where to go, what to do.
Where to go and what to do, like a puppeteer with a marionette.
A puppeteer with a marionette. And it gets worse. The fungus needs food to live, so it begins to devour its host from within, replacing the ant's flesh with its own. But it doesn't let its victim die, no. It keeps its puppet alive.
It keeps its puppet alive
by preventing decomposition. How? Where do we get penicillin from?
Where do we get penicillin from? Remember we went through the STD stage, hygiene, where they started talking about Tuskegee, penicillin as an antidote, introducing a fungi as a solution. This is right. It's just modern science, modern knowledge. Someone gets a disease, they go down to the doctor's office and they would get prescribed, if they weren't what you would call allergic, penicillin.
Fungus.
Fungus.
Dr. Schoenheis, you're in distress.
Fungal infection of this kind is real, but not in humans.
True, fungi cannot survive if its host's internal temperature is over 94 degrees. And currently there are no reasons for fungi to evolve to be able to withstand higher temperatures. But what if that were to change? What if, for instance, the world were to get slightly warmer?
Suppose the world gets slightly warmer. The fungi can survive within the people and control the people.
Well, now, there is reason to evolve. One gene mutates, and an Ascomycetia, Candida, ergot, Cordyceps, Aspergillus, any one of them could become capable of burrowing into our brains and taking control, not of millions of us, but billions of us. Billions of puppets with poisoned minds, permanently fixed on one unifying goal: to spread the infection to every last human alive by any means necessary. And there are no treatments for this, no preventatives, no cures. They don't exist. It's not even possible to make them.
So if that happens,
we lose.
we'll be back.
We will be back.
And that's your biggest word.
Yes,
We will be back. So what are they dropping here, brothers and sisters? There's a lot of strange anomalies going on in the earth right now after 2023, and I'm not 2020, March 2020. There's a lot of anomalies going on. since then, since everyone heard what the government said concerning a disease coming into the United States and all that, and I want to talk about that, but more so, there's a lot of weird anomalies that have been going on in the earth amongst our society since March 2020. Out of nowhere, a couple of days ago, brothers and sisters, a sister in Detroit, a woman in Detroit, out of nowhere, there was a report, and I have the report, and I may play it a little later, but I want us to talk about March 2020 more so than anything than going into that. But since I'm talking about an anomaly where people will start operating or working or operating out of their minds as if they're controlled, a woman grabbed her children and said, a sister, and said, we have to flee. We have to flee in a window. We have to flee outside. Took all of her clothes off and her children's clothes. Walked outside in the dead of winter and walked for hours until all three froze to death. Out of nowhere. And the report was, well, she had a mental illness. A lot of people are operating out of their minds, and no one is putting two and two together. But that I'm going to keep the 2023 discussion for Friday, Patreon. But let's go back to March 2020. Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir. Shalom.
Shalom. How you doing today, young man?
I'm doing well, sir. How about yourself?
I'm blessed by the best, and his name is Ahaya. Yeah. I need to turn you down just a little bit. You're a little loud.
All right.
Don't worry about it. I can do it here. That's fine. 1 second. Say something now.
All right. Shalom, shalom, shalom.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Now, what I want to know, Elder Lawyer, March 2020. A moment out of nowhere, we're told that a virus have come from China, that all of us should fear. And what I want to know, or just straight, honest, when I hear the people, I don't want your response as of yet. I want to know whether or not people panicked. Were they afraid? Were they scared? Did they keep their ear to the media continuously to be stared through this in fear of not being informed of what to do? And be honest, folks, were you afraid of dying? And if not, what was your greatest fear? Was it, how will I pay my bills? And did you put some initial roles in place in your home? I'm not talking about initial rules concerning who you can interact with, whether or not you can trust the people on your block, your family. Did you put some rules in place, and what were they? Were you afraid of everyone? What were you doing? What in particular were you willing to do to stay alive? Now, Elder Lawyer, I don't know, did you see that series yet?
No, sir. It's actually my first time hearing about it.
Okay. Okay. That's your first time hearing about it?
Yes, sir.
A moment out of nowhere, Elder Lawyer. And that's our topic. But let's see this. Okay. I'm getting text all over the place. The series is called The Last of Us. And I think everyone need to see that. because it's really going to be more pressing and serious with the next thing that happens, in contrast to what we experienced in 2020. And if people aren't ready for what's to come around 2025 and beyond, if people made the wrong decisions at that time, they're not going to make it through the next. Right? What did you do? Now, I'm going to tell you what the church did, later. But before I go there, because listen, you have to remember they had the pastors, the religious leaders, everyone, the corporations, all in lockstep throughout the whole thing. But I need to hear the initial reaction. Why? Because it tells us in the Bible that Christ is coming like a thief in the night. It also let us know that one day will be a regular day. And then 1 hour, everything will change. And I believe, even though so many people passed through that time, including some of my loved ones, that March 2020 was simply, to some degree, a dress rehearsal. All right. But I can say I'm going to be really guarded with what I say here, and because I don't want to go into the V word and all these other things. I want to talk about that. I just need to know the initial reaction when it happened. And brothers and sisters were told, stay in your homes. Stay in your homes. Right? Elder Lawyer, let me pull it up real quick.
Yes, sir.
Five 515-605-9327.
Welcome to Blog Talk Radio. Please enter your host PIN. When finished, press the pound key.
Be honest.
Please enter your host PIN.
Okay.
When finished, press the pound key.
Okay, let me bring it in. I got you. I know y'all can't hear me. It's fine. One moment. One moment.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4,
All right.
3, 2, 1. Blog Talk Radio.
Okay, we're live on Blog Talk, and I really need to know, what was your initial feelings and response in March 2020 when the world shut down? What was your response? Okay. Were you fearful, afraid of dying? What rules you put in place for your home? Were you afraid of other people, even those you love? Was there a concern for bills? And because of that, what did you put in place, to make sure you'll have something in case what? The world would shut down, what, for a year or whatever the case is. Whatever your fears were, I need to know today. Because it's going to happen again. It's going to happen. But believe me, it's really to tighten the screws on those who made it through the first one. So there's going to be some anomalies in the next one that just like there was nothing we could prepare for when it happened. Well, believe me, whatever they do next, there will be a new wrinkle that'll press on those of faith. Okay? All right, let me pull a lawyer in before I open up the lines here. 515-605-9327. Right? Let's get out the lawyer. Lawyer, you with me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let me pull you in. All right. Elder lawyer is here. Great. Fantastic. Now, this was before a solution. A solution was given on how to combat the virus. So I don't even want to talk about the solution. The initial thoughts when it happened. 330 area code.
Shalom, Elder. How are you?
I'm doing well, sister. Your name?
My name is Zayakwa, or Gianna, either one.
Okay, the floor is yours. You know the question. When it happened, March 2020, what did you feel? What did you do?
I remember I was 17. I was still in high school, and I wasn't really all that pressed about there being anything wrong, because I remember they were like, okay, guys, we're about to close the school for 3 weeks. And I was like, yay. Because I was about ready to crash and burn at that point.
Okay, a positive reaction,
my last day is
a relief from school. And I'm sure others who had work and there was pay with the work had the same type of sentiments. So there was an initial happiness with being out of school. So you probably thought, sister, that it's going to go by. We out 3 weeks. Hey, a vacation out of nowhere. Things will go back to normal, right?
Yeah, that's 100% what I thought. I was like, okay, we're going to just kind of relax. And then when 3 weeks was up, they were like, okay, we need a little bit longer. I was like, weird flex, but okay. And then they started canceling things. They started canceling I was in the top choir at my school where they usually go out of the state to go sing. They canceled that. They canceled a lot of our events. They canceled our prom and graduation. I was like, okay, so I guess it is kind of a little worrying, but I wasn't really going outside or doing anything because I had nowhere to go. I didn't have a job yet. So it was mostly me trying to work on my relationship with the Most High, and I think that was the most beneficial part of everything. I wasn't really looking at it like, oh, we're all gonna die of coronavirus. I think, in fact, people in my generation, we were making more jokes about it than anything.
Okay, all right. That's saying a lot, but I guess you would have less worry with you in particular within your home. You aren't the prominent or only breadwinner. So as in your youth, you have that you have that autonomy or that or least worry in such scenarios like this, depending on your family to take care of the bills and all that. But I'm glad. Now, at any time were you afraid?
I think when I started going out looking for jobs, like start being more self-sufficient, and they started enforcing more policies, I was kind of like, oh, I don't know about that. And then people started going places while they were sick. But I think that's the part that worried me.
You got worried.
So I
Okay.
started getting worried about that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, sister.
But then I was.
Thank you, sister. Now, Elder Lawyer in particular, you know what stood out to me with this, Elder Lawyer, and I think I did have a small conversation with you beforehand about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
What stood out about this with me is how people easily began to turn on one another.
Mm.
And that's in contrast to what we seen overseas during what the world called the Arab Spring. The reports I was getting about the Arab Spring, when there was a disaster or panic, instead of people or neighbors going against each other or being afraid of one another. I know it's a different dynamic because it's something that they say it's spread through people. But the community in the midst of a panic during the Arab Spring came together. They put a blockade and protected their communities and their families within the blockade. Made sure everyone ate, made sure everyone was okay. If there was someone sick, make sure that person was cared for. It seems like a disaster brought the Middle Easterns together. But this was a disaster where neighbors were afraid to embrace or even check on their own neighbors. Now, in America, it's supposed to be more advanced, being first world, opposed to some of the third world countries. But in an event of a disaster, what I find is that we're more divided than any other country. The Western world is really more divided, and it comes out, that's right, in the midst of a panic. In the midst of when disaster hits, you understand what you're made of, who your friends are, and who is really behind you in a time of chaos. And what I find, the majority of Americans out of nowhere became enemies against one another. Family. But I wanted to throw that in there. Next call, 757 area code, a moment out of nowhere when they said that there was a disease, locked down for 2 weeks, and then after that, they said, well, no, it's going to be a month or so. Jobs started shutting down. How did you react? How did you react? What was your concerns? Were you afraid? 206 area code.
Shalom, Elder.
Shalom, sir. Your name?
I'm Brother Dion.
Okay, floor is yours.
All right. So what did I see? How did I handle
Okay, I'm going to ask you the question.
the news when it came down?
Not the news. Listen to me clearly.
Okay.
What was your initial feelings and reaction when it happened? Not how you handle it. Because
okay.
a lot of that is us answering
Well-
us answering in hindsight. When it came out of nowhere, there would be an initial impulsive reaction. What was that?
That it was about something else down the road. It wasn't fear. It was about that it was a precursor to something that they wanted us to do later on.
Okay, so there was no emotions at all on your side concerning it. So you were thinking that this is something that's coming through the media that I'm just going to wait it out and see how it see what unfolds.
calm to a certain extent. The emotions, I remember very, very distinctly a shower because I was able to work through the entire time, and I took a shower that morning before working. Someone came over me, and I broke down into tears because I felt like so many people were going to be hurt. And
Okay.
this is before I found
That
our
was
church,
before
but there
what?
was emotion involved. But it was. One more time, please.
You said it was before what?
This was all before I found the church
Yeah.
and
So
started getting direction. Is what I was getting.
okay,
to say.
so let's deal with the emotions. You did break down in tears in fear of how many people might die through something like this. Right?
Correct.
Okay. That's an honest emotion through this. I'm sure others had that fear. Thank you, brother. Hold tight, and I'm going to come back to you. 910 area code, a moment out of nowhere. What was your initial reaction when they told you something is coming in here from China? It's decimating the world. No jobs, no work, no school, no socializing. And then after 2 weeks, it went on and on and on. What did it turn you into? What did you do? What was your fears? What did you put in place now that there was no end in sight? 910 area code.
Shalom, elders.
Shalom, sister.
Personally,
Your name?
we didn't, Elizabeth, from North Carolina.
Okay.
We didn't really do anything. When I heard it, I was like, again, something else. Because we basically heard and seen it all.
Well, sister,
So, we waited it out.
sister, you did something, right? Because you couldn't go outside.
We did something, yeah. What we did, we couldn't go outside. We waited it out.
I understand, but
my husband, who was the primary breadwinner, he kept working.
Sister, I think that brothers and sisters are given answers not intentionally in hindsight, and I'm saying this. Something as
well, I wasn't afraid.
No, sister, listen to me. I know there's some feedback, so I'm going to talk and then I'm going to let you talk. This have never happened in the world ever before. And I don't care how grounded a person is in the word, faith, or whatever. It had an effect when it was going on. Okay? You couldn't go outside. You don't know who to trust. You couldn't go to work. There have to be some initial feelings, if not anything. What of the unknown? How will my bills be paid? So none of those natural fears came upon you or your husband?
Honestly,
yeah.
No.
Okay.
Because we just waited it out. Like I said, my husband didn't stop working, so finances were still coming in.
Okay, so there was no fear on your part when it comes to interacting with other people.
No, they were afraid of me, but no, I wasn't. Honestly, I wasn't. I wasn't fearful. I really wasn't.
Now, I take it during this time you were actually a part of the church, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I can understand why you would have a level of calm being guided from week to week from the beginning of it. But I'm sure there's others in this particular broadcast or out there listening or looking who had a reaction or fear of the unknown. Thank you, sister. And thank you for standing in faith, you and your husband, through this. All right? Because how you got through that is how the Most High is going to take you through the next thing. And guess what? When the next scenario comes, I believe it's going to be, it's going to be on another level. I don't think the world is prepared for what comes next. Now, I'm listening for...
I don't think so either.
But But the Most High said it would happen and that he would guide us through it. But if you stay in the spirit of faith, being guided like you are and doing what you need to do with you and your home, applying the law, statutes, and commandments and following God, and hear his spirit through it, opposed to, the rumblings around you. Because if anyone think that the pressure, the peer pressure was strong during that time, imagine what's going to happen with the people who are already changing and what that pressure is going to be against those. Right? Listen to me clearly. Against those who can see. Because there's going to be many who made it through the first time that are now eventually are going to be turned on those who believe. And I'm going to go there at the end of the lesson, but I need to hear more responses, right? For those who just came in, thank you, sister. Great. It's good to have a testimony of someone who stood in faith, right? It may have triggered people to do certain things like, okay, let me prepare something. Let me get some preparation or whatever the case is. But for those who just came in, was there panic? Were you afraid for you and your family? Right? Did you put any rules in place? Fear in the unknown. See that fear? Because that was the word that was out there during that time. Were you afraid of people? Were you concerned with bills, your job? And what were you willing to do to stay alive? I need those out there to be honest and say, listen, this is what I was willing to do to stay alive. Right? Let's go down the line. 520 area code.
Hello?
Yes, your name.
Christy.
Okay, Christy. The floor is yours. March 2020, out of nowhere, they're telling you to stay in your home. Your thoughts?
I was terrified. I wasn't in the truth yet. I didn't know what to do. I had already previously been diagnosed with the sickness, and I was terrified. I felt like my immune system was already compromised, so if I go amongst anyone, I probably would catch it. So basically, I closed my house down. Nobody could come in. Nobody could come out. I was ordering all kinds of materials to make masks, gloves off of Amazon. Just basically trying to keep everybody away from my house and keep me and my children inside the house.
Okay. And how long were you locked down in your home, afraid to come out with you and your children?
We were locked down for a good 3 weeks, almost a month.
A month without going outside, no interaction.
No interaction. I was ordering everything that I possibly could off of Amazon. I was afraid to go to the store. I was already on the off from work from being sick from the diagnosis, so I didn't have to worry about that. They were giving me paid time off.
I see people out there. People out there saying they were spraying their mailboxes with sanitizer. The world was losing it.
Yes.
Were you spraying your mailbox Were you spraying your mail with sanitizer? Your
Yes.
mailboxes?
I was spraying everything with sanitizer. I believe they ran out of sanitizer on Amazon where you couldn't even order anymore.
Man, I'm sure whoever
Yes.
had some
I was really
sanitizer
afraid,
stocks in place
to be honest.
before it went down. I mean, their stocks went through the roof, did it? But go on. So let me ask you this: when it comes,
sure did. But to be honest, I was terrified. I thought everyone was going to die. I'm from a really small city in Oklahoma where there's about 18,000 people there. And I started to think, if this stuff starts going around and spreading in my hometown, then everybody's going to get sick and die. So, yes, I was really afraid. At first, in watching the news, I constantly had the news on. And I don't know, one day the Spirit just told me to shut that news off. Don't watch the news again. And I remember reading Haggai, I believe it's Haggai 2:6, where it says the Most High will shake the heavens and the earth. I read that, and I had a calm. Something calmed my spirit, and I knew it would be okay. The Holy Spirit was just letting me know that you're going to be okay. Don't panic, you know. And then I was so stressed out and worried and upset. And I have 3 daughters. My oldest daughter, she wouldn't listen. She kept sneaking out the house, and I believe she caught it, and she went to the hospital and got tested. And I wouldn't even let her come back home. She had to stay at her aunt's house for a week or 2.
See, that's
and
what.
then,
Listen. That's. See, this is why I love Elder Lawyer. These answers, especially the honest answers, because this is the stuff we need to hear. Right. My daughter, in the midst of a pandemic, because she didn't listen, she couldn't come home to the only safe place that could have protected her. Why? Because she didn't listen. She risked herself, and therefore, if something was going to happen to her, she was going to go down for not listening while we protect the family.
That's how I felt. I felt like I had to protect the other 2 and myself. So she stayed at her aunt's a couple of weeks.
So obviously, if she stayed with your aunt, she was safe enough to stay with you, right? Not blaming you, but I need the dynamics out there so that brothers and sisters can understand.
No,
so listen. So brothers and sisters can understand outright the prophecies in all of this. How something can come out of nowhere and turn our emotions into something else with our loved ones. Mother against daughter, father against son. Now, she probably would have been fine in the house with you, but that fear, now listen, sister, this is why I'm going to use this as an example. Suppose something happens in the future, right? Someone doesn't listen, right? So the whole deal is we have to understand what it is. I understand why you took that stance. She didn't listen. You still had contact to make sure she was still safe and wasn't going to die. But we're going to have a situation.
Yes.
We're going to have a situation soon, eventually, where if someone isn't amongst us, we may never see them again. And it's going to be a tough decision because this time, sister, and I'm using this as an example, I believe it's going to be in the reverse.
Okay.
I believe it's going to be in the reverse. It's going to be inversed. Those who know the truth and understand what's going on is going to have to move someone away from them because they made decisions that was contrary that could hurt everyone. It's going to be inversed. But listen, that family member is going to align themselves with the others. Maybe I'm letting it out of the bag early. That family member who didn't listen is going to align themselves with the others to find those who can see.
Wow.
This is where it's going, sister. I don't want to let the whole cat out of the bag right now because I have to do this and segue into Friday also. But this is real. It's going to be on the inverse. But it's going to be the family. It's going to be the family members coming back with others. But let me. Elder Lawyer. I'm gonna get that out of Joel later, and we're gonna talk about that, about them climbing in houses and all that. We're gonna get that in a moment. Thank you, sister. You have anything else?
No, that was it.
And sister,
thank you.
Sister, thank you for
Shalom
your
to you and the Elder Lawyer.
Shalom. Thank you for your honest assessment, and I'm sure brothers and sisters would like to know. Well, you didn't understand what was going on. Did you find the Gathering of Christ Church while the pandemic was going on?
While the pandemic was going on, I ended up moving to a different state.
Yeah.
And when I got out here to Arizona, that's when I found you guys' videos on YouTube, and I started watching them, and we ended up joining the church. We got baptized. We've been baptized for 6 months now. We've been knowing about the truth for 1 year and 6 months.
Praise the Most High. Welcome to the truth, right? But one thing that's good about this is
Thank
that,
you.
sister, if anything, what's your name again?
Christy.
Christy, isn't it a relief? Isn't there some relief that comes with knowing that in times of crisis, serious crisis such as this, that you're not alone having to make decisions, life or death decisions by yourself, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a lifesaver. And after we got here and I started watching the videos, then I was thinking to myself, you know what? I was right. I'm glad I stopped panicking. And I'm glad I just stopped panicking and I listened to the Holy Spirit. And we've been okay. We've been okay from there. The only thing I worry about is my oldest daughter. We can't get her on board. So
Well,
we're just constantly
listen,
praying that she comes around.
well, listen, keep working, keep doing the word of the Most High, and be that example, and pray that the Most High would soften her towards this knowledge and this understanding, right? And the Most High hear those prayers. He'll hear them. All right?
Okay.
All right. Thank you, sister.
Okay.
All right. I'll place you on hold.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sister, and welcome to
Okay.
the body. 508 area code, 508 area code. A moment out of nowhere. Where
Shalom,
we
officer or elder?
Shalom. This is Elder Rick Harshaw of the Gathering of Christ Church. When the moment out of nowhere came, what did you do? What did you fear? Time's yours.
Can you hear me, elder?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, it's an honor to be communicating with you. Shalom.
Shalom. The honor's all mine. All praises be to the Most
man.
High.
All praises. Yeah, man. Honestly, I moved the same. I didn't really go. I felt like there's a lot of chaos going on outside of, like, around me. I do feel like when I approached my parents or some of the elderly, because I know that was big in the news then, that they were like more susceptible to the virus. I do feel like I did take a step back away from them myself. But I didn't wear a mask. I didn't feel necessarily uncomfortable. I did feel a little bit of fear for my children. But hold up. The fear was mostly.
Hold up. Let's go back.
Yes, sir.
Elder Lawyer, here we go again. And I wanted to put this out there so that you can see that divide that's going to happen when the next thing comes down the pipeline. Automatically, the aged. There was a fear of being around the aged. Your own grandmother, your own grandfather. In the midst of a panic, we begin to isolate the aged, those who would give us the wisdom of times past. Leaving them to be isolated, not realizing the psychological impact that would fall on the elderly for not being able to actually be around their loved ones, their friends, their family. That's all they have left. So there's a psychological impact where the elderly, we have to stay away from them. More prophetic divide. And I can understand, but I'm glad you're giving me the honest assessments, because I'm going to show you how they put it in, what was put in play. A divide. When I seen chaos break out in other countries, even third world countries, the people came together. They would very well go against anything. I'm speaking of the Arab people and these other people. They'd rather go against those who are trying to say something against them than to very well not be there for their grandmother, grandfather, isolate themselves against their own parents. But go on. But obviously the fear took. You had a fear of being around the elderly within your family, right?
There was. Yeah, there was. There wasn't a large amount, but the fear was there. And for some reason, it did make me feel a little bit uncomfortable, even though that my parents and some of the elderly people share my same belief, not necessarily in the truth, but they shared my same belief as we didn't really believe that COVID was.
Well, I don't want to use the C word like that. I don't want to use that word because I really want to focus on our people's emotions and how they react to things more than whatever the scare could be. Because that in of itself
sure,
can be,
forgive me, Elder.
I'm trying to frame this so that people can actually focus inward when there's a panic or a scare. So whether or not
absolutely
the severity didn't change the fact that you had some emotions and reacted.
It was there.
Exactly. But go on.
Right. And so even though we may have been like-minded in the sense of the circumstance, we may have believed that maybe the severity of it wasn't as big as the media put it out there to be. We were kind of on the same page there with that, but for some odd reason, I was still a little bit, frightened of being around some of especially my closer relatives because of it. Even though I still kind of felt like we all felt like we were just going to move the same. It was still there.
I could understand that. Well, I'll tell you what. The precautionary spirit kicked in with me more so afterward. I was more precautionary after everyone began to actually follow suit and go through with the solution. That's when, not fearful, but I became more cautious and saying, well, okay.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I don't know what people have and how it's going to affect me. So now that everyone have made a decision, I have to now become the cautious one. Right? Right? So that's the most I can say.
Right.
Anything else? Were you concerned for your bills?
No, sir. And shall I?
Were you concerned as far as livelihood concern? Your livelihood was concerned. Was you concerned that you would lose your livelihood?
It was there. It was definitely there more than it was before then, for sure. The type of work that I was doing at the time was considered what they would or would not say. I don't know. That's up for debate, but it was considered kind of essential at the time. So not necessarily that much, but there was they had put some policies in at our work about some masks and stuff, and they were saying that, if you were caught not wearing them, or maybe you weren't
Okay,
doing
well,
whatever, there could
yeah,
be like
I'm more so dealing with not the
some things
procedural.
like that.
Yeah, I'm not dealing with the procedural parts of what they're doing. I want to deal with, because it really comes down to, what did you learn about yourself?
Well, because I'm saying it
Listen
was
to me.
almost like we could possibly
Listen.
have lost our jobs
Listen.
maybe if we weren't following suit.
Okay, I'm not. Yeah. Now I'm talking about the initial
Right,
scare.
yeah.
But what did you learn about yourself through it all? Through all of it. The positives and the negatives. Through all of this. March 2020, all the way up until what you know now, with the solution and all that. What did you learn about yourself? Anything?
Maybe I'm not as confident as I thought I was. Maybe.
Great point. All right, I'm going to put this on hold real quick. Great calls, because I'm going to show you where we're going in a moment. Elder Lawyer, before I take any calls, do you have any words or insight on what we've talked about thus far?
Absolutely. I think the way you've prefaced this is perfect, because now it forces us to kind of place ourselves back at that date of March 2020. And as you were mentioning earlier, it's very easy in hindsight to look back and after kind of seeing how things played out and various inconsistencies, and what we saw things become and how things stand now. And it's very easy to look at it going backward to now make an assessment of, it was nothing. I was always confident that, or always knew that there was something shady about this, or there were no fears, there were no uncertainties. It's very easy to do that in hindsight, because as the saying goes, hindsight is 2020. But in the midst of that, if there was one word to describe some of the things, and I'm just speaking for me personally, if there's one word to describe some of the things that went through my mind at that time, putting myself back at that date, that one word would be uncertainty. And here's why. Number one, first and foremost, I don't think we've ever seen anything of this magnitude in our lifetime take place.
Yeah.
I don't think that I've experienced anything of, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And we're not talking about the sickness in particular, then the scare and the whole earth lockstep with one event.
Exactly. And I'm glad you made that clear. I'm not talking about the thing itself. I'm just talking about how the measures that were put in place at every step of the way.
Yeah.
How things played out, the media, the initial reporting, how things developed. I don't think we ever seen anything take place like this ever in our lifetime. So first and foremost, that obviously is going to gender some uncertainty. What's going on here? And I think at the time we were on our way back from the UK. I remember that time vividly. We were on our back from a trip from the UK. It was actually the last time we got an opportunity to see our brother Dwayne live in the flesh, and may he rest in peace. But I remember that time vividly. My son was dealing with a slight cough. We had a flight to get on. And at that same exact time, they were now kind of speaking about this thing making its way to the West. Initially, it was in the East, and they were talking about it making its way to the West. So initially, the thoughts are, okay, son is dealing with a little something. How is this going to play into the flight, people's reactions to him? Not that we wouldn't make the flight or anything of that nature, but how would people react to him on the flight having this cough? So you're going through those thoughts. Getting back to the US, and again, starting to hear this thing as it's making its way to the West. And we're doing, we're doing broadcast and going into various potential, I guess you would say, scenarios of what's going on, so on and so forth. But you have to remember, at this time period, when it came to the reporting on this, you have to remember that the mainstream media had one voice. And usually when events like this take place or major events take place, usually there's an alternative view. There's a place where you can go to kind of get journalists who are giving a different type of insight or a different type of perspective of what's going on. With this initially, there was no alternative views. In fact, the alternative views, some of what I saw was telling us that things were worse than what was being reported on mainstream media. So again, obviously you're going to step back and say, well, hold up, what's really going on here? I mean, you had all types of reports coming out on alternative media concerning this. So again, to say that there wasn't levels of uncertainty, to say that there weren't certain things that you would look at and be concerned about based on how it was being reported, that would, for me, be a lie. Okay? You're thinking about family members who probably did not prepare, even though you're telling them, hey, it's probably time to prepare, but you know they're not preparing. How is this going to play out if they descend upon your home and you don't have enough to support everyone? You have to think about these things and consider these things, understanding, the possibilities, the possible scenarios. Looking at major corporations shut down. I think when the NBA shut down, that was another thing that was like, wow, never seen anything like this. So there were multiple things that came into play that really drummed up a lot of uncertainty. And as the brother stated before that was on, it kind of puts you in a mode to say that, it's very easy when you're not under a quote unquote catastrophe, or it's very easy when you're not under an emergency to say what you're going to do, how you're going to react, how you're going to deal with the situation. It's another thing when you're in a quote unquote, and I say quote unquote emergency because again, hindsight is 2020. We know how things played out. But at the time period, seeing how things were reported and believing that we were in some type of emergency is very different as far as, having to deal with these various scenarios real time and planning and preparation and things of that nature. So, I mean, there's a lot more that I can go into on this, but yes, clearly there's going to be uncertainties dealing with something that has never taken place in, I would say, probably the last 100 years. We've never seen anything like this take place, but
exactly,
that's pretty much it for this time.
And behind all of this, not just the reporting, but on just amongst the population, I've never seen an air or sentiments of of mistrust. That's a better word. Of mistrust amongst the civilian population. Serious mistrust. You don't know who to trust. You don't know who can possibly do what that would make you sick. It's as if a society was cultivated. I'm gonna tell you, it was cultivated for divide. To have everyone take a side. Everyone take a side against another person. I mean, what a job. What a job. But Elder Lawyer, real quick, let me pull this up. Because I have more calls to pull up here. 1 second. Let me pull this up real quick, Elder Lawyer, here. 1 second. Because in the midst of this, at the very end, in the midst of it, I did a report. A report that most people didn't know was out for at least almost 7 years. It's on the screen. 2014, almost 6 years before the breakout, CNN reports. CNN reports, and for those who followed us through 2020, remember this report. And this is not just any report. This is reputable mainstream media. The same people who was reporting on on the virus. CNN Politics. CNN Politics. May 2014. Pentagon document lays out battle plan against zombies. Lays out, listen, folks, mainstream media. Pentagon document lays out battle plan against zombies. Well, the whole concept of zombies, when you look at these movies, these series they have out, Walking Dead, what have you, the new series that I think is, after seeing the first episode, is serious. Serious. The Last of Us. Look at this, folks. Pentagon. Let's read it. Now, the whole social climate in The Walking Dead are what? People who were once under one rule of law, divided in clusters, an environment of mistrust. And it's all about surviving those who will come in and destroy and take what's left after the serious disaster comes through. A nation without law, a society of mistrust, an air of mistrust. Washington, CNN, there's the Pentagon. Never fear the night of the living dead. The Pentagon has got you covered. From response to natural disasters to a catastrophic attack on the homeland. U.S. military has a plan of action ready to go if either incident occurs. It has also devised an elaborate plan should a zombie apocalypse befall the country, according to a Defense Department document obtained by CNN. In an unclassified document titled CONOP 888, officials from U.S. Strategic Command used the specter of a planet-wide attack by the Walking Dead as a training template for how to plan for real-life large-scale operations, emergencies, and catastrophes. And the Pentagon says there's a reasonable explanation. The document is identified as a training tool used in an in-house training exercise where students learn about the basic concepts of military plans and order development through a fictional training scenario. Navy Captain Pamela Kunzu, a spokeswoman for U.S. Strategic Command, told CNN, this document is not a U.S. Strategic Command plan. Nevertheless, the preparation and thoroughness exhibited by the Pentagon for how to prepare for a scenario in which Americans are about to be overrun by flesh-eating invaders is quite impressive. Mental ill, man-eating invaders. 2014, folks. 2014. Now there's something else, Elder Lawyer. There's one other thing I would like to show. Now, a lot of people in the United States, Elder Lawyer, a lot of people in the United States probably didn't see this news. But I'm going to segue this more so towards this coming Friday under our Patreon. Moderna to release updated booster, right? Fair use, Sky News.
As you say, cardiology, we have now in a clinic a super exciting program when we inject mRNA in people's heart after heart attack to grow back new blood vessels to help revascularize the heart. So it's a bit like science fiction medicine, but that's what is really exciting to me.
But the other side of this is that right now, Moderna, though it has this pipeline, has one commercial product, and that's the Spikevax. That's the actual COVID vaccination. So that's the irony of COVID, is it really has in some way
fair use
allowed you to go and develop these other areas because of the revenues that came through the door.
You're 100% right.
So yes, I don't know if anybody's seen this, elder lawyer, but Sky News reported that Moderna released an update on a shot that can actually help build back materials of organs, such as the heart. Now, and he also said, based on what's the initial plan of what people have gotten, along with this, can actually become a miracle drug that can help those who have heart issues. So I'm going to go more into that, elder lawyer, this coming Friday. But all in all, days of Noah. Something is going on within this stuff, within what's going on, where eventually they will prepare for a zombie apocalypse. And it only leads us to conclude, lawyer, based on what they're putting out in media and what they're saying here, is that something is changing people. Something is changing. The science is changing altogether, and people are changing. How to actually heal a heart is changing now based on those who've received stuff. But here we go. If they are preparing for a zombie apocalypse, and usually governments don't put anything to chance, who are they preparing against? Who would be considered down the line the zombies? And who will these people be attacking? And what are we going to do in preparation in a world where there's a lack of bread? Everyone is fending for their own, no housing, and the majority of the population have turned mad, scavenging for the sake of survival. And when I say, brothers and sisters, what's coming next is way deeper than what we just experienced March 2020. If you think, if we're patting ourselves on the back for overcoming our fears and standing on our faith back then, man, did March 2020 put you in a preparation mode in case something worse happens, where it's not just a disease, but people coming after other people? The Pentagon have already done the training. And I'm seeing some weird anomalies. I'm seeing there's a woman who grabbed her children the other day, took all their clothes off and said, "We have to go," and just walked outside without any feeling for being frozen to death. No one asked what was going on in her mind. Was there something that changed her mind? There's something that's controlling her or having her go and do certain things against her own thoughts. And like I said, elder lawyer, I told people Friday, let's look at whether or not the next thing that happens. I told people last Friday that the next thing happens. Let's see if the next big thing they'll say has come out of Africa. Because automatically, if it comes out of Africa, people with this skin we're in will be to this world public enemy number one. Public enemy number one. Oh, yeah. Elder lawyer, can you get that scripture from Joel? Matter of fact, I'll get that in a moment. Matter of fact, Let's get that scripture in lieu of what we're talking about right now. And then after that, 407, get ready. 346, get ready. 561, get ready. And I think, I solely believe through their predictive programming right now, through these movies and series, that they're actually sending a message that no one can claim they weren't prepared. That no one who don't prepare can claim they weren't warned. Okay? Let's read it real quick where it says, shall be like madmen, sparing. Let's get it real quick.
All right. This is the book of Joel, chapter 2, verse number 3.
Okay, let me get this on the screen so they can see it. Joel
In fact,
2.
I'll start at verse 1.
All right, 1 second. All right, I'm going to grab it. Joel 2, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, let me pull it up on Eastward here. All right, and I have you there. Hold on. There you go. All right. Joel 2, let's read it. And it says the day of the Lord. Let's read it.
Yes, sir. Joel 2 and 1. Blow ye the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble. For the day of the Lord cometh, for it is nigh at hand. A day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountains. A great people and a strong, there have been ever the like, neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. A fire goeth before them, and behind them a flame burneth. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness, yea, and nothing shall escape them. The appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, and as horsemen shall they run. Like the noise of chariots on the tops of mountains shall they leap. Like the noise of a flame of fire that devoureth the stubble, as a strong people set in battle array.
As a strong people, that's what?
Set in battle array.
That's set in battle array. Read.
Verse number 6. Before their face the people shall be much pained. All faces shall gather blackness.
Come on.
They shall run like mighty men. They shall climb the wall like men of war.
Men of war. And they shall what?
And they shall march everyone on his ways. And they shall not break their ranks.
And they shall not break their ranks. I know some people was teaching that this is angels coming back with Christ. Nah, this ain't talking about that. It's just talking about the people who are somehow infected. Read.
Verse 8. Neither shall one thrust another. They shall walk everyone in his path. And when they fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded.
They shall not be wounded. They're not going to feel pain. They're hosts. Read.
Verse 9. They shall run to and fro in the city. They shall run upon the wall. They shall climb up upon the houses. They shall enter in at the windows like a thief.
They shall enter in the windows like a thief. Folks, this is talking about what? An induced army. People operating out of their own sense. Controlled. They've already set the stage for this, folks. On your screen. People are going to have to start preparing their food, getting stuff ready. I'm going to tell you. Dry goods, all of those things. Okay, don't be deceived, folks. With the world going back like nothing happened in 2020. What is this? Fox 2, Detroit. Woman sons freeze after mother flees with children during mental health crisis. No one is asking any questions concerning these crazy anomalies out of nowhere. Whether or not there's more to it than what's reported. What was really going on with her? What was in her mind that was leading her out there, that made her panic? Okay. Now I know I'm pulling a lot of threads here, but in respect of keeping this channel together, I hope you all can connect the dots. All right? I hope you all can connect the dots here. I hope you all can connect the dots. No one is actually going into the psychological fallout from those who followed March 2020 lockstep. There's people that are still living, but are there psychological side effects from some of this that's leading to Joel? And will these same people who didn't listen turn against the righteous? Well, that's the biblical narrative. And I believe that's the narrative they're shaping in Hollywood with The Walking Dead, The Last of Us, and all these other things. Which at the very end, an army will be required to contain the chaos. An army. Good to see you, Elder Ramar. An army. Let's go down the line. Okay, let's see. I got to find out who's been waiting the longest here. All right, 708 area code. 708. Shalom. 708 area code, you're live. Okay, let's go down the line then. 708 hung up. Let's see. 832 area code. Shalom.
Hello?
Yes, you're live. Your name, sister?
Oh, Shalom, Elder. This is Iris Braggs from the Houston body. Shalom to both you and Elder Loya. I'm so very glad and blessed to be on this call tonight. I wanted to answer your question regarding what did I think and feel and what was. I'm sorry, could you pose the question again, Elder?
Well, the question I asked when we were in that area of the total unknown in March, before we learned about anything when it comes to solutions and what they was going to do to fix the problem, March 2020, I wanted to know, what was your initial thoughts and or reactions? Did you panic? Were you afraid of dying? What was your greatest fears through all of this? And did you put some rules in place in your home because of it? Right? Were you afraid of people? If so, what people? Were you concerned with whether or not you would be able to pay your bills? What was your fears during this that whole scenario, March 2020?
The water. Thank you for rephrasing and your question, sir. My greatest fear, was the fear of the Most High. At that time, I was just coming into knowing who I was as an Israelite woman, and actually, the Most High was my greatest fear, because I knew I had been living in sin after the veil had been lifted, and my son would come consecutively, and we would have dinner, and we would watch your lessons, and he was challenging me on some foolishness that I was studying at the time to bring me around to understanding who I am as an Israelite woman, a daughter of Zion. So at that time, I was with great fear and trembling for the Most High.
Okay, so I can get more so we can get more context. When it came out of nowhere, you felt a judgment was coming on you through living in sin, and that through all of this, the Most High was speaking and through it, a judgment could happen against you? Is that what you're saying? That you had a fear that everything shut down and now the Most High would then what? Is that what you're saying? That you had a fear that the Most High was speaking
I
through it all?
actually
The context of being
kind of not
afraid.
really, sir. It was more. Yes, sir. Thank you for wanting me to contextualize what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And
What do you mean
so I
by
can be
you
very
feared
clear.
the Most
Um,
High? What is that?
Yes, yes, fear of his judgment against me, of the light of what I could be left to, what I could be subjected to, with not, submitting to his laws and understanding how it was, the law, statutes, and commandments are meant for my life, and to follow those and to put down. Not that I was, I was studying some things as African spirituality. These things I was kind of led to out of grief of losing my parents long ago, and just kind of led me on this path. And I, as I said, my son would come, he would talk to me about your lessons, and I know my sister was also very heavily involved in listening to your lessons. So my fear at that time was the fear of the Most High and what could happen to me. I wasn't really afraid of the pandemic. At the time, I was working and I was allowed to work from home, and I would order my groceries. I would wash the groceries and, everything that I would get. I did have concern about possibly getting this COVID with all of the alternative news, like Elder Laura was speaking about, like all these trucks with people just these dead bodies being thrown in there, happening in New York and up east, of how the pandemic was, just ravishing this, this whole community and worldwide. So, but again, I held my peace within me, and I realized that, the greatest fear is the fear of the Most High, and
Okay. So
as I said, I just was able.
Okay, what I can assess from what you're saying is that when things slowed down, the Most High gave you an opportunity to reflect on where you stood with him, where you stood with him, and make a choice to follow him. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir. He drew that line in the sand.
Yeah. So
yes, sir.
So in essence, that happening, which is also the will of the Most High, that we go through these things, was a blessing. Even though the enemy is doing what they're doing.
Yes, sir.
It became a blessing for a lot of us to understand, to take inventory of our life and where we are with the Most High. But go on.
Yes, sir. No, that you have summarized exactly what I wanted to say, sir. I greatly appreciate it, and that's all for me. I want to just thank you, and I continue to pray for GOCC leadership. I'm very grateful for you all, for your laborious work, your tireless work. I do praise the Most High for what He has set in place for us and all of our teachers and elders. So I'm very grateful. Thank you. Sawada.
Thank you.
To you all.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Exactly. And I'm glad she brought up that component, that even through that dark moment of indecision, uncertainty, the Most High was always there. He's always there saying, well, okay, I know you're nervous. I know you're fearful. I know you don't understand what's coming down the pipeline. Hold on to me. Have faith in me. Follow me above the ministers of this world, and I'll guide you. And I believe so many people who wouldn't otherwise, I believe so many people found the Most High during that calm. Some people have never prayed before, prayed. And that in of itself was the will of the Most High. And I'm glad she brought that component out, because through it all, that's going to be our saving grace. A clear and sober mind. Why did the Most High say a clear and sober mind? Because we're going to be living in a world where everything is talking about what? They're going to be talking about pharmaceuticals and everything else, where people are dizzy. The equilibrium is off. They can't see straight. They're not thinking straight because the side effects of all of this stuff won't allow one to. And those that are sober minded are going to hear the Holy Spirit break down, repent, connect with the Most High to be guided through this. Thank you, sister. This is why I wanted to get the context, because I knew there was something there. All right. 574 area code.
Good evening, and shalom,
Good
elders.
evening. And shalom, sister.
I understand the question, and I don't want to hold the evening. I'll answer directly and sober. So my husband was working during this time, and the initial thought was, I want to agree with the last sister. It was very sobering, and it was almost like, this is go time. I realized that
when you say go time,
when
you say go time, what is that?
We've done a lot of scripture study. We've read the Bible and listened to weren't in the truth at the time, but we still, from church, kind of understood the times. So my husband was working. When it initially happened, I went and did a lot of grocery shopping, and things didn't really change for us at first. He was still working. I was homeschooling our children. So while things didn't change, I saw the world was reacting. We didn't react. We kind of knew that it's time to follow the Father. Again, we weren't awakened to who we are as a people and all of the truths of the Bible as we are now, as we've been blessed now. But that was almost a precursor to how things are now. We don't know what's coming, but that showed us how to move when things shake all of a sudden. It wasn't a fear. We didn't have a fear. We didn't have a frame of reference, but we didn't have fear. We had a very a faith that allowed, like, we were able to, I guess you could say, live like the characters in the Bible. Abraham and Noah, we were able to.
I'm trying to piece it together here. I mean, are you saying that when the pandemic happened, it was an opportunity to put your faith into action? It was no longer,
yes,
it was no longer, is that what you're saying? It was no longer just believing the word, but having to live it now in the midst of total confusion and uncertainty. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
See, sometimes, I don't know if y'all.
Yeah, we had to be doers.
Let me ask you, because I don't want anyone to feel you're limited with time and have to rush and try to get things out because were you nervous? Is that what it is? Because I don't want people to be nervous.
No, I don't think it was nerves. I think that
I'm talking about now because 2 calls in a row, you're right. I hear you, but then I'm able to piece it together to give context for those who are listening or viewing. Right? So
no, not so much nerve. I just want to yield. I just want to yield. I don't want to.
Well, no,
over talk. I can over talk, and I don't.
No, we don't want over talking. We just want context. Because I believe these conversations are learning moments because other people were experiencing the same thing the same time, and what you did through the Spirit of the Most High God, the Most High pulled you through. So who knows? One day, someone will be in that circumstance, and we'll reflect back to this phone call and say, you know what? I remember this sister said, it's time to put my faith into action. It's no longer, it's no longer rehearsal. It's dress rehearsal now, right? Right?
Yes.
And then
that was it.
Yeah. And then after dress rehearsal, it's going to be what? It's going to be lights, camera, action with the next one.
Action go.
All right. So the whole thing is we want brothers and sisters to stay aware that even though things seems normalized, we're living in the calm before the storm. and they're going to lull people back to sleep so that no one is prepared for the next thing that happens. All right. So still be up on your food, still be up on preparation, and above all, what? Have your spirit grounded with the Almighty, because it's coming. And it's not just coming, it's going to be the people who didn't listen, who didn't follow the righteous in that time, that will be added to Satan's army to come against the righteous. I truly believe mind control is a real thing. And I truly believe those who are not sober-minded and all those things will be subjected to the mind control that comes with anything that could be connected to a beast mind control system. All right. And I believe that the Bible says we're in the days of Noah, and a lot of what people are complying with is actually changing them. It's having a profound effect on not just the body, but the psyche. I know some people aren't making it through altogether, but the people who are surviving through this are changing into something. And eventually, when I read the Bible, this is how Satan initiated an army against those who believe in Christ. So on one level, it was my daughter had to stay in another house. My daughter, or I kept my doors closed. And at that point, we had some level of control. But what if now your daughter is changed? And she's a part of a mind hive system to now seek out those who are in Christ. What if it's husband, wife? What if it's son, daughter? I believe what's going on now will eventually lead to that for those who live through the change. And I'm keeping my eye.
Yeah.
I'm keeping my eye on 2025, 2026 and up that, because there's going to be a lot of things going on within that time period. Okay. And I'm looking at Africa. And I said this since 2009. I said this. Africa will be the last battleground before we're in the wilderness. Africa will be the last battleground. And Africa is really the only country that have pushed back with all that happened back in March 2020. So now all eyes are on Africa for not complying. So I can suspect, based on how I've been viewing prophecy and everything, that don't be surprised if the next thing that happens, it will be blamed on Africa, not China. I'm just saying. So here we go. And just simply with the skin we're in, going to make us what? Suspect.
Target. Yeah.
Suspect automatically. Especially, don't forget, when it all happened, it was, okay, shut down the airplanes going in and coming out of China to America and all that. And that was the whole dynamic. And then some people that flew over had to be quarantined. Well, when the African people and our brothers and sisters come over from Africa, there's no distinguishing them from me. We look alike. So automatically, what happens? On the political landscape, we become public enemy number one. Okay, so, all right, sister, let me place you on hold. Thank you. I'm glad you gave context. Very good call. She stood in faith.
Thank you.
And I said it. Ramar, I don't know if you remember, I said it years ago, that the last battleground before the wilderness will be Africa. Right? And now it's playing out real time. 773 area code. I showed a simulation, a preparation for what's to come 2025. And I did that through Patreon last Friday. And all eyes are on Africa. It's time for us to get it together, folks. 773.
Hi.
How you doing? This is Elder Ricard
Hi, my
Shiar.
name is Rosa, and Hi, my name is Rosa, and I'm calling from Georgia.
Yes. The floor is yours, Rosa.
Okay, I've kind of forgotten a little bit of the questions that you asked, but
Well,
I
let me
know
put it in
the
a
first, I think the
nutshell.
first one you asked was
Let me give it to you in a nutshell, and it's simple. Before you found out about the solution for the problem, things shut down. They told you to stay in your house, March 2020, for 2 weeks, and then it turned into months. What type of emotions were going on? What do you think? What were you feeling? Were you afraid of people? Were you putting rules in place for your loved ones? Give me some insight. And what did you learn through that ordeal, March 2020? What did you learn through it? But go ahead.
okay. Well, I can honestly say that I was not afraid. I worked all throughout the pandemic, never stopped. I worked directly in customer service, so I was in close contact with people just about every single day, several times in a week. I was not scared, and actually, before it really kicked off, I had.
What I'm trying to focus on more so was there was some changes that you had to make based on the scare. You had to put something in place. It affected everyone, even myself. I had to put things in place. Even if I wasn't afraid, I wasn't afraid at all. I can agree with the I'm not afraid portion, right? But what I need to know is, what were you doing? Were you concerned with your bills? What were your concerns, if any?
At this very moment that I'm talking to you, as I'm remembering, I don't remember having any concerns. I am not somebody who puts all my eggs in one basket, so I did end up losing one of my jobs immediately because everybody was at home. But I have another job that I work one day a week, and I just picked up extra hours at that job, so I was full time for a couple hours until my other business picked back up. I did not worry about bills or anything because I save a good portion of my income. I'm pretty financially solid, stable. I was not afraid of people at all. Like I said, I work directly with customers face to face. I was not afraid at all.
Okay, so
some people were afraid of me.
Okay, so I take it you got the faith of the Most High. You went through it, understanding what it is, and you just leaned on the Most High, and nothing changed for you, really. And other people were afraid, but you were fine.
To be honest, no, nothing changed.
Well, hey,
nothing changed.
Praise the Most High. All right, let me place you on hold so we can get to the. Hey, that's good because I can relate to that to some degree, even though I had to move around other people who were losing their minds with all of this, right? But I can relate to what you're saying. But Elder Lawyer, and that's right. Elder Lawyer, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And it's good that I'm hearing this, that there were people, brothers and sisters, that were operating in serious faith. But I've seen people that were in the truth, right? While it was going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I'm glad to hear these sentiments now because if it's like this, we can get to the next one when it happens, smooth selling. But I remember the phone calls, staying up day and night, keeping the line open, where most people were afraid. They were afraid for their life. Why can't we gather? What's going on? This is happening to this family. I've been in my house alone for 3 weeks. It was pandemonium. It was pandemonium. Day and night. Pandemonium. It's just
very serious life and death situation.
Oh yeah, it was pandemonium. I'm not talking about people in the world, Lawyer.
Yeah, I know.
It's just deep in of itself, There was one sister who expressed that pandemonium, and maybe we have more people on the line that's probably in the church or whatever the case is. But folks, the calls tonight does not reflect the sentiments and the spirit that was out there. before people knew what was going on.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
I mean, our broadcast, our Sabbath broadcast and our Wednesday broadcast doubled, sometimes tripled in audience.
Mm-hmm.
We end up losing the channel almost. Struck 2 times through the whole thing because so many people were listening at one time. And we was and the Most High, through the Spirit of the Most High, had us had with a study flow to guide brothers, sisters, and scriptures through each stage of everything that was going on in the earth. And
That's right.
I looked up, and there were what? 5,000, almost 6,000 regularly on a Sabbath. Okay? And I'm just putting it out there because maybe, and this is what it is, we are within a fickle society, and now we're back to our everyday routine, Elder Lawyer. But in actuality, I don't think brothers and sisters are saying, or put it this way. On the outside of it, thinking of it in hindsight, we can all, to some degree, have a level of relief and downplay that moment of total confusion and uncertainty.
Right.
Because it wasn't like the government news, Elder Lawyer, was just every day giving solution. Mm-hmm. Every day, it was more so they was dripping and dropping information incrementally that would lead to a solution.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And at the end of it, people were just tired. It was like they were, it's as if the government waited them out and they were tired. Then the conversation was, I just want my life back. I want to go back to the norm. It's like it was drips and draps, and then what? The government waited everyone out and say, well, listen, this is what you got to do. And then everyone is like, then they started talking at the very end, let's bring things back to normal. And the people that were in solitude, scared, made it through, lost loved ones, was like, listen, I'm willing to do whatever I can to get my life back.
Mm-hmm.
See, y'all don't realize I'm able to go back to that first moment and deal with that moment like it was. And realize, even for myself, I had to look at it and say, okay, everything the Most High gave in us from the beginning is happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's not whether or not it's deeper. It's more deep with the legislation and the policies they're putting in place for the mark of the beast than it was the scare in of itself. But I knew it was game on.
Mm-hmm.
Game on. Okay? It would be far from the truth if I said that there wasn't any level of concern. But this concern I'm talking about was way deeper than just a scare. Mm-hmm. A concern for the people who are not listening to the Most High. A concern for those people who's going to fall for everything they're putting out there, and eventually, through their lack of faith, not make it through. Through their lack of faith. Okay? But I'm going to tell you, I don't know if y'all downplaying it, brothers and sisters, but I was there in the first week and second week when it all went down, and there was panic. There was pandemonium. Go into a Home Depot. Some women are in Home Depot, act like they're getting things. Only because they're probably home alone and was used to being by themselves. In Home Depot, everyone know they're not shopping. Only
just waiting for a man to ask, "Do you need some help? Are you fixing something at your house or something?" People were coming out just for social interaction for a moment. Roads were clear. People were running red lights and not getting tickets. The roads were so clear. Everyone was afraid. How we soon forget. 804 area code. 804. Okay, let me put 773 on hold. 205 area code. 205.
Shalom. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, but your phone is kind of distorted there. You're not too clear.
Can you hear me now? Is that better?
That's better. Okay, the floor is yours. Your name?
Elder Ricard, I'm gonna tell you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. When everything jumped off, man, I thought it was about to go down. I thought it was about to go down. I was nervous. I've been a baptized member since 2014. We had already been talking about being prepared for the next false flag moment, right? I remember the first thing that came to my mind was, is this real? I had a friend who's a operations manager over at the airport over here in Atlanta. And, they put the restrictions on the travel and they put a curfew in. And I remember I'm an entrepreneur. I got my own business. So I really wasn't pressed, to do anything by any outside people. But I remember when everything first went down, I was thinking to myself, like, yeah, it's about to go down. And I got the essential worker pass from my client/friend. I was out riding, and the streets was empty. A few days passed by, it still hadn't really hit me yet. And then the whole issue with the toilet tissue, the soap and the bread started going down. And the first thing my mind went to was second address.
Yeah.
I was on my way home. And I realized, like, 'cause we had just got a house in 2019. Me and my wife had just got a house, us and the 4 kids. And the neighborhood, there's a lot of Gentiles in the neighborhood, right? So when it happened, automatically, now, I was always under the impression that, you come into the neighborhood, they bring you a warm apple pie, and greet you to the neighborhood. But as soon as it went down and they started talking about how our community is more affected, these people completely separated. I mean, they would look at me from across the street, and I started thinking about second address, right? And I started thinking about the second address, about how they're going to go from house to house and start plundering, and they ain't going to spare their neighbors. And, man, Elder Ricard, I came in the garage, and it really just hit me, the severity of what really is about to go down, right? And, man, I cried. Elder Ricard, I promise you, I was so nervous, and because the reality would just really hit me when I got out the car. I put my head against the garage, on the wall in the garage, man, and I cried, man. I cried because I realized at that moment that, man, I'm going to have to be willing to die to protect these kids. Because if they come dealing sideways, I got to be willing to do. And then I got a bunch of sheriffs that stay in the neighborhood, and they all, they Gentile guys. And, man, then that's when they start talking about the contact tracing and going door to door, and over the years. But man, I cried, man. I cried when the reality hit me that I had to be willing to really like lay my life down to protect them.
Mm.
And I remember,
and see, it's deep what you're
really
saying, but
being
and
nervous.
I'm gonna let you go ahead. But that's why I titled this "A Moment Out of Nowhere." A moment out of nowhere. You're walking down the street, everything is fine, but then after the reports come out, based on what people who's more disproportionately affected, your whole neighborhood turns on you and see you as a virus. There's no one like you living around anywhere, and the news have you up as public enemy as a virus number one, being that you're more so susceptible compared to any other people. And now you're asking, how did I get myself in a place not to prepare with no one around me to protect me during the apocalypse?
God.
Brother,
Ricard,
let me tell you, listen,
I promise you, man.
Listen, thank you for that honest assessment, brother, because let me tell you, every emotion that happens during war, I believe, was executed on a lower level without people understanding understanding that there was some level of psychological warfare. Sanctions is when there's a lack of goods, where they start taking goods away from people. That has a psychological impact where you go into scavenge mode, where I got to get what I have for me, nix everyone else. It automatically causes a chasm between people that would normally come together under a disaster. But go on, I'm going to let you have the last word.
I promise you, Elder Ricard, I promise you, I thank the Most High that he brought me into the truth back then.
Yeah.
Because if I hadn't known what I knew from following the lessons, because I've been here for a minute, Elder Ricard, I just be quiet. I don't say too much because I don't be wanting to seem like I'm trying to be seen and then like that. I'd rather just sit back and learn and then put in work when it's time to put in work. But I remember, all the lessons that we had back in 2014, 2015, 2016, and you kept saying that we got to be prepared for the next false flag event, and definitely remember when they put in the play the Insurrection Act of 1906, and we was talking about how you don't want to get caught up out there trying to get supplies.
Yeah.
And I remember just thinking to myself, like, I've been preparing, but it ain't good enough. This ain't going to last long enough. And I got to be willing to do what I got to do, because if they try to come against my family, man, I can't go in the back and hide.
So at this point,
I got to be willing to do whatever I got to do.
Yeah, and now I'm going to segue to the next call, but before I do that, brother, thank you for your honest assessment, right? Giving us the moment of how it is. Just like a production, when you see some of these movies, it's a regular old day, and next thing you know, hell is breaking loose. Folks, it was like that out of nowhere, from George Floyd, the elections, counting the elections, Trump to Biden, and out of nowhere, boom, everything shuts down. And the whole world is waiting for what to do next. Everyone is seeing every other person around them as a possible spreader. Let me tell you, brother, listen, I'm grateful. Listen, I'm grateful to the Most High that he delivered the word that would have his people with some level of clarity to stand on a foundation in such times as that. Because I know when it happened, brother, and this is what people can't take for granted. Regardless of where you went with your life and what you were doing and all that, and it's all good, you knew exactly where to come back to. So that message, that seed was planted. Brother, that seed was planted. And listen, brother, just like you thank the Most High for it, I thank the Most High for it. Because he didn't have to choose any of us. Right?
Many are called, but few are chosen.
Right.
This seed been dropped on many people. At the same time, it was dropped on me. It's just that it took root in me, and I decided to do something with what Christ put in me. But all in all, I'm no different than any other brother or sister. The only difference is the majority of the time, people get the calling and understand it's God, but yet ignore it. But ignore the calling. It took root. And I thank the Most High that I could have made any choice like anyone else in a time in my life where I wanted to make it in the music business. I wanted to do this and I want to do that. And through the Spirit of the Most High in the early 90s, me understanding who I am and my position and duty to my people became priority. It built a purpose.
Wow.
So I looked through it all and realized it's what we make, it's the choice we make in the moment we're called. And hey, brother, I thank the Most High that you in particular knew exactly where to come back around. Because, brother, the next time it goes down, I'm going to tell you, it's going to be 2020 on steroids. And they have already initiated the help within the world who have followed their protocols. They have already initiated the help that they will use against us in 2020. Hey, all they're going to have to do is, hey, listen, who knows? All they may have to do is, who knows? Flip a switch. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, thank you, Elder Ricard, for your time. Peace and blessings to everybody that's listening, to all our brothers and sisters, especially to you and all the elders that's serving, doing y'all thing, man. Keep continuing. We're going to keep praying for each other, and we're going to get through it.
Thank you, my brother. And guess what? Hey, and guess what? The next time you won't be caught sleeping, I'll tell you that. All right, thank you.
I know that's real.
All right. Listen, you can still live your life and do what you got to do with your family, but in the meantime, keep one eye open. Don't go to sleep. Okay? Don't go to sleep. Prepare a little bit of something, even though the world is going back. And I told people, and the lawyer tell you, I said, listen, when the news tell everybody it's time to go outside, everybody's going to come outside. It's like people are just, it's just being led like a maestro leading the orchestra. 804 area code. I think everyone, I'm not trying to promote no HBO special or something, but I believe everyone need to see that series, that first, at least that first episode. That first episode, I believe, The Last of Us. The Last of Us. Hey, let me tell you some of the lessons that we have coming down. Here's the lessons that you will hear about, right? And, I like to keep things in the days of Noah when I go into the next academy, when I go into tracing the serpent seed. That's going to be titled, It's in the Blood. Satan's plan since the beginning to taint all of humanity and turn the image of God into a servant through science, transhumanism, tracing the serpent seed. It's in the blood. Next academy. Okay. I'm already getting what I'm going to do for the next academy. It's in the blood, folks. It has always been about the blood. It has always been about the blood. To get all nations, all people blood within a blood bank, within some level of, I would say under some level of, what they call that, where you put things under a data. Not a data sheet, but what do they call that, Elder Lawyer? Because
a data bank, or
no, it happened under Barack Obama through the fusing of records. Right? Yeah. To get all people into a so-called data bank. That's the word for it. Knowing that there's a specific bloodline that was prophesied from the beginning. The pure blood of Adam going all the way through Christ, Judah and the 12 tribes. There's a specific blood strand, DNA strand, that they know if it survives in this earth, will eventually judge those within this earth. Getting all people, all races of people. There's really only about 70 nations. But we're God's people. We're the chosen people. And our strand, our DNA strand is different than any other race on earth. And it's about getting everyone in a data bank. Thank you, Elder Lawyer. A data bank. So that they can now use scientific measures to get rid of that particular bloodline. It's Satan, Lucifer, the fallen ones, tainting bloodline using science as a cover. I'll be talking about that and more. It's in the blood. 704 area code.
Scientific measures to get rid of that.
All right, 903 area code. If I'm playing in the back, I have to go to the next. 903 area code. It's in the blood.
Shalom, Elder Shalom.
Shalom.
Sister Leah, how are you?
I'm doing well. Yourself. A moment out of nowhere. Floor is yours.
Well, I was not afraid because I left my job in 2014 to prepare for whatever was coming. So, I didn't just hardcore, but I've been working with people in my area trying to tell them, we've trained with our little walkie-talkies and that thing. And we do something every month. So I wasn't afraid. But I do want to say that when they started putting up the data and when they told us that it was going down, it was weird because I had trained in school for epidemics and pandemics because I was going to be over a health department. So that didn't sound right. The stuff that they were saying didn't sound right. I knew they were getting ready to do something, but I didn't know exactly what because it didn't sound right. But I wasn't afraid, and I didn't really have the truth, but I had some truth. But I just got baptized last September, so I wasn't afraid, and I did. I got so sick of the stuff that they were putting up because I looked at the news like daily because I knew that the head doctor that was saying all this stuff, I realized that. He was the same man that was behind the anthrax, but a lot of people didn't know that back in 2000.
Allegedly. I want to keep it. Listen, I rather keep this framework within your emotions during that time than putting out these other things because YouTube isn't what it used to be.
Allegedly.
Okay, YouTube isn't a place in which you can say certain things and keep a channel.
Right.
Okay, but go on.
well, I did notify somebody, and I won't even say all of it, but I notified an authority in D.C. that the data that was being posted didn't even make sense.
Okay, sister.
Because I'm real good when it comes
sister,
to the
listen,
data thing.
I'm with you. I'm with you, but some of the things you're going into is strictly for Patreon. When you talk about when you talk about the line of work you were in and the people in government that you reported to, because that falls under they'll ding our channel as conspiracy and misinformation, right? And that's just the way it is. They don't want us talking this stuff publicly.
Okay.
That's why I wanted to make this more of a personal thing of regardless of what they were doing and how we ascertained and realized the real purpose behind it, there was still an emotion. There was something going on with us that was testing us. And I really want to get to the bottom of what that is, which is more important than what anything they can do. Right? We have to learn from these instances,
okay. Well,
right?
I did set the rules for my son and I. Like told him, make sure you, if you go out, when you come in, take those clothes off. Don't sit on furniture and don't sit on your bed and that kind of thing. Well, he did go out and he went out of town and he came back with the COVID.
Okay.
And so where that went. He actually laid on his bed in the street clothes. He forgot he was sick, and so he laid on the bed. But yeah, it was like I said, I was not afraid, but I did realize that we were moving forward with the things that I had been told when I was in elementary school, because our missionary told us that most of us may live to see the War of Armageddon, the mark of the beast. So it kind of hit me, this might be it. So anyway, it gave me some time. Those 2 years gave me some time to reflect on what I'm supposed to be doing, because even though I was told and raised that I was a Gentile, I felt like I was one of the chosen ones. So I'm going to leave it at that, because I wrote down what I was, little notes so that I wouldn't forget what I was going to talk about.
Okay.
But, I don't want to go any further.
Yeah, but
thank you so much.
But sister, listen, I'm interested.
See you in the next academy. And
well, that's good. I am interested in hearing what these details you're talking about. YouTube is just not the platform for it. So if you call in Friday around 2-3 o'clock, I would like you to convey that information of your experience that led you up to that moment to understand what it was opposed to what they were telling us. So, yeah, I'm interested in hearing what you have to say on that. It's just that we're restricted when it comes to what we can
but
some details.
I do understand, and that's why I wrote it down. I didn't think I had overstepped, but I do apologize.
Yeah, but I have to be so guarded because so many brothers and sisters come to this channel to get guidance and understanding, and I don't want some something that could have been just avoided to cause people, brothers and sisters, to miss us for weeks. So I'm just guarded because right now, believe it or not, YouTube is a public place where really it's the battleground right now. All right.
Well, I don't want anything to happen to it, because I've been waiting on this. Like, I looked yesterday to see if you were on.
Yeah.
I check every day, because last week and the week before seems like there was a little issue of getting on at the right time or something. I don't know. I don't think we were getting the notifications in time or something.
Okay. Well, thank you, sister. And you say you're going to be in the academy?
It appeared to be that way.
Thank you, sister. I'll see you in the academy. Bless you. And and make sure you're there this coming Friday, sister. All right, so I can hear some of the insight you have on some of those that government intel. All right, 267 area code.
Hello.
No. Yes, 267 area code. How are you?
Shalom. How are you, Elder?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
We were going over the. Good. In talking to the brothers and sisters about, you asked about the context about what we were feeling.
Yeah, just
at
you.
The time of the
yeah,
pandemic.
just you in particular when it happened. What was your initial
in particular, what happened?
Thoughts?
It changed my life. Everything changed. The tables of life changed. I was prepared to enter into a healthcare program that altered, and the pandemic began to change and produce musical chairs in my home and household. I think the most biggest.
Okay, when you say musical chairs in your household, illustrate that. What's the musical chairs in your household?
Illustrate. Okay. When I instead of being a supportive person, I became head of household. And in head of household, I ended up taking on the financial responsibility. And I've also had to take on the healthcare issue of my sisters and my brothers who are not really understanding that way before March 2020, I gave them fair warning to prepare their households. But I come from a family, they're not into, whatever media gives them, they take it. And 90% took the vaccine.
All right. Okay. Hold up. We said, sister, listen. We're not going. You probably came in late. We're not going into the V word. We're not even dealing with that because at March 2020, there was no such solution as that. So what? Maybe you came in late. So let me preface this for you. Before we understood what the solution would be, where things were going, there was an initial response to everything being shut down. With and total uncertainty, no conclusion in sight, right? It would affect our livelihood, those who depend on their jobs, and you were told to stay home, and there's a disease that's coming through that's looking to wipe out millions of people. So before there's a solution, there's a reaction when something happens of biblical proportion, or at least being reported as such. Every individual at that time had a serious awakening one way or the other. So I want to just keep it on that week and that or the weeks leading up to, but don't forget, the solution didn't come down the line until months afterwards. All right. At the end of the year, they say in January, I think we was able to get this within 5-6 months. So I don't want to go there. I want to go with what was your reaction, right? And what did you learn about yourself through it, if you want to answer that at the end? Were you concerned with your bills? Were you afraid of other people? Now, okay, these are the things I need to know.
To respond to, was I afraid of other people?
Yeah.
I knew that, yes.
Okay.
I was afraid of other people. What I mean by that is I knew people were not aware of the velocity of how this could spread. And my home, when I met by musical chairs, I would care for my family. I did not want people around me.
Okay.
I did not want people who would not follow house rules and mitigate the order of coming in and going out, if we were allowed to even go in and go out.
Was there any
men in my house?
Was there any men in the home? Outside of outside of the youth?
There were men in the home. Yes.
Your husband?
Yes. There was a male present. Yes, my husband was in the home.
Okay, and what was
and that was the only person that I would allow in my home.
Okay, what role did your husband play through all that?
He played he was the most instrumental about building the levels of safety.
Okay. He was the muscle.
He was the muscle.
Okay, I got you. All right. Well, thank you, sister. Thank you. And
we knew then, yeah, okay.
Well,
90 seconds.
Well, in closing, we only got 90 seconds before the line cut out. All right. Do you have anything to say in closing?
I knew more than most people about what we were facing, and
how was that? How was that possible?
That was the time to take my health.
How was that possible that you knew more than others when
60 seconds
when they were dripping information out gradually, leading to a solution? How did you know March? The first 2 weeks. How did you know?
I knew more. I knew because I work in healthcare and I work in science.
Oh, are you on Patreon? Would you be willing to share that this coming Friday?
Possibly, yes. If and I can't go into detail, not here on this public forum.
Not
I
here.
keep forgetting we are on YouTube, but
please,
yeah,
I would
but
love to hear
definitely
what you knew
before.
initially, beforehand. I would love to know that. And I'm sure our Patreon members would like to hear it too.
Yeah.
Because who knows? There's some talk
Oh,
out there that
10
there could
seconds.
have been some inside baseball going on where some people within the field understood where this would go. But YouTube is not the place to discuss it, right? Well, thank you, sister.
Exactly.
All right.
All right. Peace.
Hey, lawyer, you there? Yeah, there go lawyer.
Yes, sir.
Lawyer, I'll tell you what the pandemic was able to do. What it was able to cure, actually. It was able to cure those. It was able, let me tell you, it was able to cure the I don't need a man sickness. I mean, if anything, when things shut down, that I don't need a man sickness, it was a total cure. And I think for once, and this is why out of nowhere, and even Kevin Samuels said it, it was the pandemic that made Kevin Samuels so large.
Yeah.
He said it because for the first time, women was trying to figure out how to get a man of means and was willing to hear and be critiqued. Why? Because there was nothing else to do. They were alone. And women far outweigh men. And out of nowhere, this guy was sitting there with 15,000, 20,000 people during the pandemic on his broadcast. The majority was women. And that's a piece people were sleeping on, was the fact that them women wanted to be over there. They wanted, even though, he had his own way of doing things. They were there. They were there to hear for the first time in a long time what men want. And he started breaking it down. The pandemic allowed the whole earth to stand still. And just for a slight moment, in the ether, the I don't need a man sickness was cured. Because they weren't there talking about anything more so than he was talking about a high value man. Well, this is a man with means who can help you through emergencies and help you and be there. But this man requires something. And I say that because we just had our lesson, the satanic divide between man and woman last Sunday. And I wanted to put that out there. A lot of people don't know there were so many people at home, lonely women, that an opportunity, a lane came out of that with Kevin Samuels, where they, as an image consultant, they wanted, constructive criticism so that when something break down like this again, there's a man around. Right?
Right.
And what led me there, it's important to have a man around. And what led me there is that I knew this woman, she was operating, but I say, okay, your husband was the muscle, right? He's the enforcer. Now, what happens when everything goes down and there's no man to protect the house from what's coming? And I mentioned that during that. So they were willing to listen for a short space as far as that I don't need a man. I think COVID had everyone, men, women, and everyone, rethink their position in society.
Right, definitely.
There was a report on the news where you can only call the cops for these particular crimes, which means if you're not dying, do not call. Man, I know people's like, what? The police wasn't even showing up. They were using drones to go around the area. I don't think people remember. But I'm here to remind you, to bring it to your remembrance. Because why? We're in the next calm before the storm. storm. I'm telling you. The next one is going to be 2020. It's going to make 2020 look like a skip through the tulips. Everything that they were talking about, Elder Lawyer, where the pushback was, the passports, contact tracing, all the things they put out there that was really a pushback, because you can't really enforce that in America right now. All those things, that they waved out there and pushed back and pulled back, because they can only push but so much. But when America started pushing back, they said, okay, we can't do that yet. Everything they couldn't do will be done with the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And not only will it be done, it'll be enforced. Another thing a lot of people don't know right now is that out of nowhere, even though I thought there was Ukrainian-Russian war, that, look at this. And there's a war there, right? But I wonder why the Ukrainians are in America right now. Huh? Under what? A patriot something? Look at this right here. Look at this. See, when you hear the word patriot, understand that's almost a buzzword. Patriots is talking about those who would protect their country, American citizens who would stand against any tyranny, foreign or domestic. Oh yeah, in the midst of everything, and we're going to be talking about this Sunday in the news, actually in the news. Ukrainian troops arrive at Fort Sill to train Patriot missile, Pentagon says. So they arrive where? Roughly 100 Ukrainian troops have arrived in the United States. The United States. Now, I don't know what's going on. I know a lot of money was given to Ukraine to help them against the war with Russia. I don't know how that parlay into troops from Ukraine, training here on American soil. But I digress. So the only thing I can surmise is that eventually what's going to go down, everything they couldn't push with the first one will be enforced with the next one. Right? I can only surmise that, but a lot of y'all don't know what's going on. I tell people getting at the academy, Shapat go through great lengths to get the news that's not even being reported here. The only thing they report in America really is entertainment and sports. Entertainment, sports, and gossip. Okay, but everything I just showed you right there, we get that stuff. That's the normal way of doing things in the academy. We always bring forth new information to let you understand how close we are. It doesn't matter how normal things seem. Okay, there was purple lights all over the place in certain areas during 2020. And if people was wondering, what are these purple lights? These fluorescent lights where they were changing light posts, and instead of white, they were purple. And like, what's going on there? Well, there's more to it with that too. So everything that they couldn't enforce with this first thing, we have to look into them actually, using some of that technology that they couldn't push with the last situation. So, hey, get in that academy, folks. I'm telling you. Right? All right. 312 area code. We only got a few minutes before this particular broadcast ends. 312 area code. Yes? Okay. No one's there. 816 area code. A moment out of nowhere.
Hello, Elder.
Shalom. Your name? Were you on earlier or no?
No, I was not. This is Sister Ranisha.
Okay, the floor is yours, Renisha.
All right. I was just gonna say that a couple of points. I was not afraid. At the time I was pregnant. I just knew that I wanted to go ahead and do a home birth. I knew that I needed to start fasting more, so that I could prepare not only just spiritually but also physically for anything that might come up. I know I needed to buy more goods. I didn't want my kids to attend school anymore during that time. I began to lean more on a higher, and my faith actually increased a lot.
Good.
I started to see a lot of the people around me who kind of started to separate ways just based off of um, that solution at the time. Long-term friends
yeah.
and family members were literally splitting just because of that.
Mm.
I knew that I needed to get my home in order. Started to press more on the fact that I needed to get a passport, get baptized. Um, and also, I found that they completely threw laws and people's rights to privacy out the window and lied a lot about a lot of things.
Okay, well, listen, I
And
don't
just saw.
listen. I don't want to go about what they was doing because I more care about the initial emotions that happened when things shut down.
Well, as
What
far
what
as
what did you feel?
yes,
What was your
sir. Okay.
thoughts?
Well, as far as my yes, as far as my emotions and my thoughts at the time, I wasn't fearful. Never been fearful when it comes to that because I know who I belong to.
And your husband?
I was more so fearful about the people around me. My husband,
Yeah.
no, he wasn't fearful at all either. He was
Okay.
like, I'm prepared for war
Okay.
if need be.
All right. All right. Well, thank you, sister.
And that's pretty much it.
Hey, it's good to see so many people. So many people walked in during this time, stood on solid ground, and regardless of what they were putting out there, you were willing to do what? Weather the storm, regardless of what was coming at you. So that's to be
Indeed.
commended. Bless you, sister.
Kind, yes, sir.
All right, that's right.
Shalom.
Shalom. A lot of us, we weathered the storm. And it's only preparing us for the next one, but the next one is going to be quite deep. 786 area code. Get ready for the zombies. 786 area code.
Shalom, Elder.
Shalom. You were on earlier?
No, sir. First
Okay, your
time
name?
calling in and
Okay.
actually getting through.
Okay, this is great. We're doing rapid. We're doing rapid.
Mike.
We're doing rapid fire now. We just hitting them and getting through all the calls because there's a limited time before the line cut out. So what you got? A moment out of nowhere.
Yes, sir. Just to give you a little brief synopsis of who I am, I'm Mike with Florida Body under
Okay.
Elder Nathaniel. And I just wanted to say that I came into this truth back in. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I'm listening.
No, I was saying I came into this truth around 2013 and been in the academy about 11 times and also that I'm a fellow Philadelphian.
Okay.
And I absolutely love the work that has been coming forth because I have learned a great deal under you and Elder Lawyer and Roger, and appreciate all the work that you guys put in.
Well,
and
thank
also,
you, brother.
I wanted to say in regards to that time, thank you, sir. I also want to say at that time, around 2020, I got baptized.
Great.
And also I received a great deal of knowledge prior to that. So I was lockstep with what you were bringing forth in regards to this understanding.
Fantastic.
And was not in fear. In fact, was preparing in many ways to carry this through in regards to listening and learning from you guys. So it was a blessing to have you guys being the forerunners in this knowledge and putting it out there for us all to be blessed through it.
Well, thank you,
I
brother.
also want to add to the fact that it was a powerful thing to learn in rapid time at the time that right after the time I was baptized, that, it was a preparation that needed to be done. And it seemed as if I was in step with everything you guys were bringing. And a lot of it, even when I would go to the classes under Elder Nathaniel, me and, this other guy who also was baptized at the same time was saying, we just talked about that in the car coming to church. And here he is, the Most High is bringing it right back to us, acknowledging what we were talking about.
Well,
and
that's
I
good.
find that
Well, brother, we're
with
gonna have to
me more
round
and
it up,
more
brother. We're
as-
gonna have to wrap it up because this is rapid fire. We have to get to the rest of the calls.
All right, sir.
All right.
I
I'm sorry
appreciate
about
the
that, but
fact
we
that,
only got a certain amount of
the
time. I
Holy
apologize.
The
Go
Holy
on.
Spirit is working. That's okay. The Holy Spirit is working with us. And I want to also acknowledge the fact that my constant prayer with and for you guys, the elders, the bishops, the deacons, and the officers who bring forth this word, because it is powerful and it is moving things in the right direction. Bless
Well,
you,
thank
brother.
you, brother, and bless you for all your support and welcome to the war, the real war, the spiritual one. Thank you, my brother. All right, going down the line.
Also, I've been in about 12 academies.
Well, thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you. You must have some serious fuel and you have some serious spiritual ammunition in your arsenal. Bless you, my brother, and thank you. And I hope to see you in the academy this
sir.
Sunday.
Thank
All
you.
right, all right.
Bless-
All right, going down the line, rapid fire, 561 area code. We're going to shoot. Harold.
Shalom, Elder Rakar.
Shalom. Let's get through it. Talk to me. A moment out of nowhere.
Okay. When this first came out, my experience was anger, because I was like, okay, what Satan got his minions up to now? They always up to something. But I wasn't too naive not to know that they're capable of doing anything. So I was already like preparing from listening to your previous lessons, telling us to prepare and stuff. But I was like, I got enough food for probably a month. But if this thing really go down, like I know I don't have enough, and I'm a truck driver, so I was on the road a lot, and I called my wife. I was like, we need to triple up on everything. Like, if we got 30 cases of water, we need to go get like 60 cases.
Good.
We need to get 200 cans of tuna fish, crackers, and all of that. So I was mindful. I was like, if it really go down, like they claiming, I gotta be prepared.
Exactly.
And being that I'm a trucker, one good thing about it was the roads were empty. So I was like, well, I ain't gotta worry about all this traffic and stuff, because it was empty.
Yeah.
And I noticed, I was like, I'm going to these shippers and receivers, these distribution centers, and they talking about food shortages and stuff, but I'm taking truckloads of food and water and stuff to these places, and I go inside and it's full of stuff. So I was like, this is a man-made shortage.
Well,
like they holding this food on purpose.
Allegedly. I'm sure you.
Allegedly.
Put it this way: the same time that they were saying there's food shortages, when you went to those places, you seen food. But go on.
Yeah, I seen food.
Yeah.
So also and I wasn't afraid, but just also I'm around thousands of people a day, because I'm in and out of truck stops and everything. So just whether subconsciously or just for self-preservation, if somebody coughs or something, like in back of your mind, you can take a step back or
I'm like
whatever,
that anyway.
Just out of self-preservation.
Yeah, I'm
So,
like that anyway. I never like. I thought
mean, I
always.
wasn't afraid.
Listen, I've always.
Yeah.
I always took someone coughing in front of you and sneezing in front of you, even before all this stuff, as a level of disrespect. It's
Right.
like you're dealing with something. Why spread
Yeah, and
your
they
zone?
got it bad in the
Yeah,
truck stop.
yeah. So that's normal. Usually, you don't. No one wants to be, have days taken away from them sitting next to a guy or a woman who don't have enough respect not to spread her germs to you, him or her germs to you.
Right.
So that I always was like that. You know what I mean? Like, nah, that's a spirit. Well, brother, thank you. I appreciate you. All right,
Yeah,
let me
man.
rapid fire. All right.
So I
So this brother was driving and realized that you know what? They said there was no food, but when he went into the warehouses, he seen food. That's deep. Oh, yeah. Maybe they were rationing. Okay. All right. I'll give them that. They were just rationing. Possibly. I don't know. Elizabeth. 484 area code.
Shalom.
I mean, usually in a state of an emergency.
Shalom, Elder.
Shalom. Usually in the state. Hold up, sister. Usually in a state of an emergency, they have to. The food suppliers must go lockstep with government to make sure that food doesn't run out. So in a state of emergency, that's how it is. Right. It's each store get a certain amount just to make sure the areas can stay fed. All right. But I digress. Elizabeth, yes, floor is yours. Rapid fire.
Shalom. Okay, so I'll make it short. I just want to say, Elder Ricard, Elder Lawyer, and Elder Ramar, your lessons are always fire. So when this all happened, I wasn't even in the I didn't even know nothing about GLVC. So I learned about you guys towards the end of 2020.
Okay.
And I got baptized once I heard the truth off of Jump, right? So initially when it happened, I was in Kalahari's. We were taking a vacation at one of the resorts, me and my family, right? And when we came back from the resort in February, we got really sick, like massive sick for almost like a month, right? I didn't recover until like somewhere in March, right? So I went back to work that week and I still wasn't feeling 100, but then they shut it down. I kind of knew because they were talking about the whole Wuhan thing, and that the first American in February 8th, I think it was, that got,
Okay,
he
they got the
contracted
stuff.
what they were talking about.
Yeah.
So initially there was confusion. I wasn't in the truth. I also I didn't know what was going on. And through all of that, I started I guess trying to search back spiritually towards the Most High, but I didn't have any direction at the time of which way to go. But because I have a high level of common sense, I started putting two and two together, because I have a lot of friends that are we were called conspiracy theorists, but they're facts now. So all in all, I think that there was a lot of confusion, and once I figured it out, and I turned off the TV and stopped watching the news, I started to just trying to tell people about what was going on, and what I got was mixed feelings. I had people that would look at me like I was crazy, and then I had other ones that would just be like, well, I'm trusting the government, So it was a lot of frustrations at that time
Okay.
that I had. And then I started getting angry.
Yeah. Another thing
And then I went
noticed.
on vacation, so I got in my car, took my kids.
Go ahead, I'm listening. Go ahead. I'm listening.
I ended up going in my car and took my kids, and we went to go see my mom, right? Because I felt like I was in, if anything happens, I want to see my family at least one more time. So I ended up driving from New York City through Virginia to North South Carolina, all the way down to Georgia on a road trip. I figured, if we're gonna die, who cares, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just to see my mom and my family. And what I saw on my trip was that every state was reacting a lot different than New York. New York was really shut down. Everywhere else that I went, people were out. We went to the diner, ended up going to Laurel Caverns. We just was doing stuff like a regular. It wasn't the same way as they were telling everybody in New York City. It was just kind of weird to me.
Okay.
So as I ended up in Georgia and I tried to talk to my family, I saw how the divide that they felt. It was really hard for me to try to explain to them to take their time, to not do anything, not believe everything that they were saying, and I would give them my firsthand account of everything. But people make their own decisions towards the end.
Well, that was more of the family divide. Thank you, sister. I really appreciate it. All right.
Yes.
One other thing here. All right. Let me put you on hold real quick. Another thing, the fear mongerer from CNN, Don Lemon, all the way from the George Floyd, all the way to the scare March 2022. March 20. He was the Pied Piper. Oh my goodness. How many numbers? What's going on? Oh my God. Let's go over to this country. Let's go over to this city. Oh my God. What we gonna do? We look out for the elderly. We must this, that, and the other. Here he is right here. Don Lemonade. Now when the headline says I was not demoted, and it starts off with I was not demoted. You're demoted. So right after Biden used this guy for everything, they put him in the basement. Right? He was for everything pro-black, against police brutality. It was this guy's voice that triggered our people who didn't know any better to follow lockstep until they no longer needed him, until he was no longer effective or needed. So they demoted him to the basement. You got to wake up real early to see this guy. And usually the morning show, yeah, that's one step from the janitor closet right there. Well, if you got to state, I was not demoted, Don Lemon speaks about move to CNN mornings. See that? See what you get? You sell out. And then after you sell out, that's right, you're no longer useful, because they say, listen, if you will turn on your own people, how can we trust you? If everything you push have led to the demise of your own people, it's only a matter of time before they get rid of you. Okay? There it is. Right? Yeah, a couple of months you may hear about them selling sandwiches up the street from the studio. Let's go to the next one here. Shanice. That was the guy that was selling those wolf tickets during March 2020. A moment out of nowhere. Shalom. Okay, Shanice.
Well, my thing is that I've been in the truth. I agree with the guy that said he been in the truth. I've been in the truth for about as long as he has, since 2016. We got baptized, but I had been in since 2013. And I remember when you guys used to street preach and used to say stuff, about all the stuff that was going on. So fast forward years through, I kind of got complacent, and I really wasn't thinking about nothing happening because there wasn't nothing happening. And when it did happen, it terrified me, because it was like, okay, we're here now. And like, it wasn't specifically said when y'all was out there street preaching, like what was gonna, what it was gonna be. So I was kind of back and forth in between, is this what they was talking about, or is this something that's real? And so my husband ended up getting sick and getting the COVID. I called and spoke with Elder Lawyer because I was confused and conflicted on, should I keep him here in the house, or what should we do? Can he go somewhere else?
Okay,
I was really adamant to send him somewhere else.
Sister, I'm only dealing with the initial scare. Now, if you start pulling out private conversations of how we was guiding you through a time of uncertainty, then this is gonna be.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No, don't worry about it. I can see this clip.
Yeah, well,
live at the
terrified.
Pentagon somewhere with other people looking at it and saying, "What's going on here?" I know these guys have a Hebrew Bible Academy, but I don't know if they have some type of medical license to give advice. So we got to be very careful with that. The advice we gave you was from the Most High God, out of the Bible, because we Bible people and we love Christ. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And we love him. We
Yes,
love
sir.
him. And we've embraced the Bible. And when you talk to Lawyer, that's all you heard was God speaking to that brother to guide you and your husband into the marvelous light. Okay. So we're gonna hold that peace, that peace.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it wasn't
until
anything
Friday.
medical.
All right. All right. All right. Go ahead. I'm listening to you.
Yeah, and so I was terrified because I didn't know, exactly like, what was going to happen or any of that. So I kind of just went along with everything as far as the mask goes and, the sanitary stuff, and stayed in the house a couple of days and watched the news a couple of times. But really, I was just more focused on, the spiritual aspect about it. Like, I kept praying and praying and praying, that everything was covered, and, and to prepare my spirit for whatever happens.
Yeah.
So it kind of helped having, a man here to, help, I guess, calm my spirit, knowing that I had protection just in case anything ever happened, anything major happened or anything like that. So I definitely was scared during that time. It didn't even matter how long I've been in, been in the belief, but it was scary. It was really scary.
It doesn't matter how long.
But I thank the Most High we got through it.
It doesn't matter how long, but when it's rolled out, when it's real time, I'll tell you right now, reality kicks in. It's like, hold up, this is something of biblical proportion. This, no matter what we might think this is, the world is going to change after this. And guess what? March 2020 was one of those moments where we realized that's right.
Definitely.
We're ticking down to the mark of the beast, the path to the mark. Thank you, sister. And guess what? I'm glad she was able to
thank you.
Get with us in prayer. And I'm sure Elder Lawyer, through the Spirit of the Most High, and spoke with her husband. And, we prayed, healed, and, through the Spirit of God, and got him through. Right? That's what it's about.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yep, he was good in 4 days.
Look at that. All right, sister, I'm going to put you on hold right now. It seems as if, Can I get a few more here? Let's see. Yvonne, 352. All right, I can only get one or two more, and then that will conclude our broadcast. All right. Yvonne, 352. All right.
Hello. Shalom.
Yeah. Shalom.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. The floor is yours.
Yes. Okay. Yes, shalom. Well, I was just wanting to say that, I wasn't really scared, but I was very concerned for a lot of people that did not know the truth and were not in the truth and hadn't been reading the Most High's word. It was just, that was my thing. I worked out, through the whole thing, and the people around me were looking at me all strange because I would not put on, no mask or anything. I just kind of like would had the shield, and, people look at you all strange and stuff, but I was like, I'm trusting in the Most High. It really what it did for me was make my faith even stronger to Him, for the Lord, because that's all I knew. That's all I had. I didn't have it, and I'm by myself, and I'm like, okay, this is it, and I'm just gonna trust the Father, because He tells us, He said, let your heart not be troubled, neither be afraid. All these things must happen, and then also, He said that these, it's the scare tactic. This is what they do, and it was real, because a lot of people did, things, lose people and all that, but my thing was faith, because whether I go or not, I'm going to stand with the Lord, I'm going to die in the Lord, and that's where I was at. So I had to spiritually just prepare myself, spiritually, and I knew the Most High was not asleep. He wasn't asleep. He wasn't asleep on this, and He's not asleep on none of it. And I had to keep reminding myself what the Word of God say, and that's what was my thing to my family and all. You read His Word so that you get His Word in you. He hide His Word in your heart so that you may not sin against Him. And that was my thing. And I said, because He's going to fight against them to fight against you. He's going to take care of us through all this. These people do what they do, but his word is true. He's going to do what he says.
Exactly.
And that was where I was at, and that's how it was for me. I couldn't, there was nothing else that I could do. Nothing else. So all I could do, and all I wanted to do was trust in him and get closer to him, and that's where we're at. Like I said, he's not asleep. He's not asleep now. He wasn't asleep then. He's not asleep now, and he won't be, and he's not asleep tomorrow. He is wide awake and very well, and just all we have to do is trust him.
All right, now thank you, sister.
That was my thing. I trust him.
Hey, there it is. It's all about the trust. Hey, I tell you, hey, the Most High got her through. So yeah, there was instances. There are instances where there's no man there, but hey, if there's no man there, the Most High there, she was tuned into the church and received guidance. He was there. All right now. All right. I think that concludes. Let's see. Is that Tangia? Last call for today, Tangia, for this evening. Before we digress, Elder Lawyer, thank you for coming on. Of course, we're done a little early tonight. And thanks for assisting me, brother. You can digress because I know you're about to go to sleep, and soon I'll be able to do so also. Believe it or not, I went longer than I thought I would after, overcoming a little stomach bug. So all praises.
All praises.
So, hey, I went longer than I thought I would. And, it's deep because every time I get before, doing the work and have the Bible open and doing what we're doing, the Most High, it's a healing mechanism almost. I feel better.
Right.
I feel better. Praise the Most High. All right. Let's see. That's it. Tangia?
Hello, Elder. My name is Tangela.
Tangela. Oh, okay. I got it right. I almost got it.
Yes.
Talk to me, Tangela.
It's okay. Shalom. Hi. I'm just on my initial thoughts. Was initially I was confused, and the reason I was confused is because like 2 weeks prior before the shutdown, I went into Costco, and what I noticed was that there was a limit on the water, the toilet paper, and rice, and I really didn't know what the heck was going on. And so I think fast forward, next thing I know, was locked down, and what took over me was a little panic because I hadn't prepared. I didn't know to prepare. I didn't know what to do because I wasn't in the truth at that time. And shortly thereafter, from work, I found out I was exposed to something. And during that time when people were going in the hospital and weren't able to come out, I was afraid at this time because I didn't want to go in, knowing that nobody can go with me. And I was too weak to really just take care of myself. So I took that time to stay home. And my fiance, my husband, he's my husband now, but my fiance at the time and my son, my daughter, they took care of me around the clock. And praise, thanks to the Most High, I'm here to this day. And I made it through that scare. I was just, at the time, I wasn't ready. My life
Looks like Joe Biden has
my life in order, trying to find my way to the Most High and ask for guidance at this time. So I had a lot of fear, a lot of mixed emotion. And then as it progressed, what I found out how alone we were, because it felt like I was just by myself, didn't know like-minded people at that time. Was called a conspiracist and all kinds of other things. Nobody wanted to be around me. Until I thank God found the body later on in the year, and I think in October, ran across your YouTube channel, started listening, connected with the Orlando body in February, March. I got baptized in October last year, and here I am. I know we're at the end, so I was trying to just fast forward through all that. So I went through a lot of emotions trying to figure out what to do, how to navigate through that. And what I think out of this was, I'm not alone anymore, but that feeling of being alone and not being ready to meet the Most High really weighed heavy on my heart. And so I just thank the Most High that I found my way to the truth, and here I am with the body.
Well,
So
thank you,
that's it,
sister.
Elder.
And hey, welcome to the body. We're your family. You're our family. The water. All right. All right.
The water.
Yeah, because during the election, we had the George Floyd scare and all this other stuff going on, Black Lives Matter, all this other stuff. And at that time, you know, there was a political conversation going on concerning what exactly will Joe Biden do for our people who would actually get him into office, right? It would need our vote. Like this time, you're not going to just get it because blacks are predominantly Democrat, right? Y'all remember this. Y'all remember this right here. Y'all remember this.
Charlemagne, the presidential hopeful, made an egregious comment that has people questioning if he's worthy of their vote. Towards the end of the almost 20-minute interview, Charlemagne touched on an issue of great...
Charlemagne touched on the issue and he said what?
Life in the primaries this year. They have things they want from you, and one of them is a black woman running mate. What do you say to
that? Ain't nobody want no black woman running mate. They put them words in his mouth. Yeah.
What I say to them is that I'm not acknowledging anybody who is being considered, but I guarantee you there are multiple black women being considered. Multiple.
Charlemagne had a follow-up question, but got interrupted by someone off camera saying their time.
Oh, let's go straight to it.
VP Biden?
Will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
The comment.
That's right. If you have a problem trying to figure it out, you ain't black. Fair use. You ain't black. So I guess in 2020, we figured out exactly what he would have for us. Right? We figured out what they would eventually have for us, huh? I guess. I don't know. Maybe. Well, with that, folks, in all seriousness, we've been here through it, the path of the mark from the beginning, and we're still here, dropping the same knowledge, the same truth, with the same power who've raised us in these last days to warn and to help prepare God's people. Okay? What I have to say to you, brothers and sisters, the world has gone on, and they're going on as if nothing happened. Don't fall asleep. We're in the calm before the storm. Make sure you have food. Make sure you have canned goods. Make sure you have extra water. Make sure you have a network of believers who understand exactly what you understand. So if something happens in one area, you can flee with your goods into another area to sustain until what? You're in a safe haven. Don't put your guard down. We're close. With that, I'm going to say shalom. I'm Elder Ricard Shaw of the Gathering of Christ Church. I would like you all to go to Gathering of Christ Church, gatheringofchrist.org, and order the new calendar. Run the race. Order the new calendar. It's absolutely wonderful. In memory of Brother Dwayne. Run the race. Make your pre-orders and also order extra ones to give to your family members so that they can actually know exactly the times according to God. Bible, scriptures, everything is there. I know it's bright, but go support the work. Please help us. With these resources, that's right. We'll place these resources and put them into something tangible in preparation for what's to come. Okay? Until the next scare, that's right. I'm Elder Ricard Shaw of the Gathering of Christ Church, and I'll see our loyal Patreon members this coming Friday, 12 noon. With that, I'm going to say shalom. May the Most High be with you. Stay in this truth. Stay prayed up. Sin not. We will soon see Zion. Have a great evening. The Most High is calling back Israel. Thank you, Elder Lawyer.
Sir.
The East is where we're from.
Israel. In 721 BC, the Assyrian king, he took us down, we fell. With a great escape, we went through the Euphrates. The Lord held the water still. To a land where no mankind dwelt, we went.
Good night, brothers and sisters. Good night.
The 12 tribes of Israel. That's who we be. Manasseh, the Cubans, Ephraim from Puerto Rico, Naphtali from the Isles of Hawaii. The Lord is calling back Israel. Zebulun from Panama, Gad, the North American Indians, Simeon, the Dominicans. The highest gathering Israel. The Arabs and Africans told us. At gunpoint. Together our wives and children then sold us. In the belly of these great ships we traveled in fear. By the rivers of Babylon we found our brothers here. A high gatherer. Asher in Colombia. Reuben from Australia. Issachar, the Mexicans. A highest gathering Israel. Judah, the Negroes. Benjamin, the West Indians. Levi, the Haitians. A highest gathering Israel. Reuben from Australia, Issachar, the Mexicans. That's who we be. Judah, the Negroes, Benjamin, the West Indians, Levi, the Haitians, Manasseh, the Cubans, Ephraim from Puerto Rico, Naphtali from the Isles of Hawaii. The Lord is calling back Israel. Zebulun from Panama, Gad, the North American Indians, Simeon, the Dominicans.